Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com, shop there today, and make yourself look good.
I'm not a good pretender, I never could live a lie. I said too much, and let it get the best of me, until it took the rest of me. I thought it was worth the fight, to fight for what's right, to right all the wrongs, to sing in our songs, to know we belong. No one understands, they don't have the desire, got their hands in the fire, and I do it again. We give it all we can, all we have is desire, got their hands in the fire, we burn ourselves and never say, never say, never say, never again. I never say, never say, never say, never again. I learned more from one enemy than from 1,000 friends. That heaven takes care of the fools and scoundrels in the end. You learn more from one lie and from 1,000 truths.
Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You've just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I am your host, Mr. Rob G, and tonight we're broadcasting to you on our terrestrial affiliates across North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, KPNL, and Odyssey Radio. Remember, you can access our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, please consider hitting that subscribe button. We'd appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio and at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with the SOR Newswire, get some official Spaced Out swag, plus rock out to some Bumblefoot and oh so much more. Welcome to the show tonight. Welcome to the After Hours on a Sunday evening. A lot of you I know are coming right on over from the Cryptid Huntress, Jessica Jones. Hope you enjoyed that show. Hope you enjoy this show. It's going to be an awesome one. As you saw on the thumbnail, and you already know the name, it's this man has done a lot in this field. And believe me, if you didn't know his name, you know his face because he's been on everything that pertains to UFOs and ufology. And I'm sure you've seen him at some point in time. Mr. Preston Dennett will be joining us tonight. So it's going to be awesome. I really do appreciate anytime I get the chance to speak to Preston. He always brings a wealth of knowledge, and, due to his research and everything that he's into. So it should be an awesome show. I really can't wait to get into it. Let's go ahead and check and see what the medal positions are tonight, courtesy of Race Fan. Looks like Race Fan does definitely get the gold tonight. Like always, pretty much like always. And then Lee the Bee comes in with the silver. And I think this might be the first time Christine with the bronze in the top three. Christine, I'm loving it. I'm liking it. You're kind of moving the needle. I really do like you coming early and getting it in here. And let me see. Getting back to the top of the chat, definitely want to say thank you for the first super chat of the night coming from Reverend Cosmic Joe Chronicles. Okay, love it. Saying hello, Rob G and fellow space travelers. We do appreciate you coming on in, Reverend Cosmic Joe Chronicles. And then also Dev from Sacramento saying, let's rock this biatch tonight, sweet Robbie G. Okay. I have no choice. Dad from Sac said so. So we just definitely have to rock it tonight. And I think we will. I think it should be an awesome show. It's always awesome when Preston's here. So let me go ahead and get back in the chat, see who else has shown up here tonight. I know I saw Woo Riders DG, Derek Galloway. I'm not bringing that message up, but I do appreciate you coming on in and joining the show tonight like you always do. Always supporting. Assault Rifle Omen, right? So we know who this is. This is our guy, Travis Moostus, under another. He has multiple aliases, but definitely make sure this is his Twitch account. So make sure you follow Travis W. Moostus on Twitch and YouTube, Blue Lightning Cards, and also Assault Rifle Omen, apparently on Twitch. Thanks for coming on in, Travis Moostus. As well, let's see who else do we have here. Like I said, Race Fan came in with the gold. Hey, saying good evening, Rob. Lead the B, saying here I am too, coming in with the silver. And then we had the Christine coming in with the yay, Presty with the bronze. Thanks for coming on in, guys. Roger Murray dropping some knowledge. Happy 79th birthday, Father UFO podcast. Art Bell, June 17th, 1945. June 19th, 1987, Ohio Dogman incident. 4 children abandoned at the steam mill. Witnessed the werewolf. Whoa, that's pretty heavy, Roger Murray. Thanks for dropping that information on us. And also, some of you guys out there may know June 16th, 1971. What date that is? That is the birth date of the late, great Tupac Shakur. I want to shout out Tupac Shakur tonight on the After Hours. Rest in paradise, rest in peace, rest wherever you may be. Shout out to Tupac Shakur. Getting down the list, Jeff Fletcher saying hi all. Thanks for coming on in, Jeff Fletcher. We do appreciate you showing on up. Let's see, getting down the list here. Let's see. JSCO77 saying hello, everyone. Hello, JSCO. Thanks for coming on in. We appreciate you showing up. Renee Cruz saying Preston Dennett. Hey, Renee Cruz, thanks for coming on in. Yes, Preston is in the back, and we'll be coming up to drop some awesome knowledge and information with us tonight. Cannot wait. Let's see. I'll stay in my bubble. Thank you. No sound. No. Okay, we're good. Yeah, your sound. We should be good. Thanks for coming on in. I'll stay in my bubble. Thank you. Let's see. Moving down the list, we have, let's see, Melvin from Mars coming on in. We appreciate showing up, Melvin from Mars. We have James Coffee. I'm so tired. I just traveled 1,500 kilometers. Time to chill with my alien encountering fam. Thank you for coming in, James Coffee. It will be going down. And then there's Dolly Saffron. Hey, Dolly, thanks so much for coming on in. Yeah, well, usually it's Dolly and Preston. Hey, well, thank you for coming on in, Dolly. We do appreciate you showing up and supporting the show as well. Let's see. Getting down the list here. Kurt M has stepped in saying hi all with the wavy hand emoji. Hi, Kurt M. Thanks for coming on in. Let's see. Paranormal Pixie Laura. Good evening, Rob G and Space Travelers. Good evening, Paranormal Pixie Laura. Thanks for coming on in tonight. We do appreciate you showing up. We got Simon the Likeable saying hi, Rob, Preston, and everyone. Hello, Simon the Likeable. Thanks so much for coming on in. We appreciate you supporting the show tonight. Miss Mary saying, is this live? This is live. This is proof. Your name is on the screen, Miss Mary. Thanks for coming on in and supporting the show, this live show. Thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate you. Let's see, getting down the list here. We got Rain C. Good evening. Jessica sent me. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. It's a team effort. It takes all of us. Anybody who doesn't know who Jessica Jones is, which I don't know how you wouldn't. She comes on right before this show, 7 to 8 p.m. Pacific, every Sunday. You can catch this, which is the After Hours. We are here Saturday and Sunday, 8 p.m. Pacific until 11 p.m. Pacific. Then you got Dave Scott, conductor of the Woo Train, kicking it off Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. until midnight Pacific time, 7 days a week, you can find something going on right here at Spaced Out Radio. So make sure you guys come on back. Let's see who else is here. Brian Morgan. Brian Morgan said, nice. Preston always brings quality cases. Yeah, he does. He always curates, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to touch on some of those things. So we'll see, Brian. Thanks for coming on in. Let's see, getting down the list here. W. Decker stepped in saying, hey, everybody. Hey, W. Decker, thanks for coming on in and supporting tonight's show. Should be an awesome one as we get in on this Sunday at after hours. Get you ready for your work week. Positive energies will be going out to you and manifesting a great work week. I know you'll have one. I'm putting it out there. It's going to be a great week. Watch. I'll talk to you next Saturday, and we'll see if I was right or not. Let's see. Tamat Man has stepped in the building with horns. Do appreciate you coming on in, Tamat Man. Yes, sir. We got Jay True Seeker saying, wow, I just hurried on over to this show. Appreciate you coming in too. Every person counts. You, and you. All of you count. And we do appreciate you coming on in to support us here tonight at the after hours. Getting down the list here. What else do we have going on? Let's see. Karen in the Woo Train saying, good evening. I hope all the dads and those who model as father figures have had a wonderful day today. That is such an awesome comment, Karen in the Woo Train. It is appreciated as well. Yeah, had an awesome time today. Awesome Father's Day meal. It was epic. And yeah, so here we go. And we're doing the show. And who else do we have? We got Jennifer coming in saying, greetings, Jennifer. Thanks for coming on in. Appreciate you showing on up, getting down the list. Santa Claus. What? Santa Claus is here? Okay. Santa Claus saying Adam was an alien. We appreciate you coming on in, Santa Claus, showing everybody that you are real because you are here tonight supporting the after hours. And we appreciate you, right? We appreciate you. And Joanne saying yay with the happy face emoji. I do like that. Thanks for coming on in. Let's see. Getting down the list, we are getting closer to the end here, and yeah, that is definitely Kira. I am stepping in the building saying hi, Robin. All right, home from the beach in a car, not easy to type. Yeah, use that little microphone button. Kira should let you do speech to text. It's an awesome thing. I've been using it lately, and man, yeah, it's pretty awesome. But drive safe, and we appreciate you coming on in, supporting like you always do. Let's see. I'm going to bring this up just because it's true. Preston is the man with the lovey eye emojis. We do appreciate that. Let's see. Moving on down. Contrary 111. Okay. I like it. Yo, Rob. Wavy hand emoji, cool glasses emoji, alien head emoji, owl emoji, spaceship emoji, galaxy emoji, and meteorite emoji. Thank you for coming on in. We do appreciate you. Browndorf has stepped in. Good evening. Happy Father's Day. Right back at you, Browndorf. And happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Just let me get that out the way. I mean, it's definitely a day for fathers to do what they want to do. And I'm glad a lot of you chose to be here tonight, Spaced Out Radio. Let's see, getting down the list here. What else do we have that is shown on up? Who else has come in to see Preston Dennett tonight? Let me see. There are more people. Yeah, Me Woken. Thanks for coming on in, Me Woken. We do appreciate you showing on up to tonight's show. Mark's Shed Talk. Hello from Brisbane, Australia. Wow. Definitely appreciate you coming on in all the way from the other side of the world. That is epic. Just think about that. Other side of the world. Yeah, we appreciate you. Eternity Eternal saying hi, Rob G, with the silly face emoji. Hi, Eternity Eternal. We do appreciate you coming on in, showing up here tonight. Cody Eiler saying, let's go. Okay, that's what we're going to do, Cody Eiler. Thanks for coming on in. A lot of new names here. I do appreciate you guys all coming. Carol and Mario saying hi, everyone. Thanks for showing on up here at Spaced Out Radio After Hours. Yeah, R.I.P. Pac. That's right. Let's move down the list here. What else do we have? Magneticus Attractus saying, what's up? What's up, Magneticus? Thanks for coming on in. Little Cam 5-1. You got a friend over there on Twitch right now. Travis Moostus is joining you from Twitch, so that's awesome. Thanks for coming in, Little Cam 5-1. Let's see. Moving down the list. And we are almost there. I promise. It's just awesome seeing all the people in here. Yeah, just feeding the algorithm. That's what's happening here. And I do appreciate that, Jamie Cotterill. Appreciate you coming on in and helping move the algorithm and getting this program out there, because I think this is really an awesome place to be here at Spaced Out Radio. So thank you very much. Let's see. Laura Lee Seaton has come on in saying hello. Hello, Laura Lee. Thank you so much for coming on in and joining us tonight. Get your Prestons ready for Preston Dennett too. I mean, when do you ever get to ask Preston questions? Tonight, get some good ones ready for hour 2 for sure. Moving down the list here. Mike Jones. Who? Mike Jones stepped in the building and has come on in. We do appreciate you showing on up, Mike Jones. Let's see. Michael Kennedy. Okay. Long time, Michael Kennedy, saying, yay, Preston is awesome. That is the true fact. Thanks for coming on in, Michael Kennedy. We got Miss Mama Catherine Jones saying, hello, Mr. Rob G. Hello, Mama Catherine. Do appreciate you for coming on in tonight to the after hours. It's like the house is getting packed. It's getting packed. We like that. Unveiling Addiction saying hello. Thanks for coming on in. Unveiling Addiction. Abbott Hoffman. Thanks for coming on in. Abbott Hoffman. Kira, thanks for the last chat. Robin M saying hi, Rob G and Preston. Just left Jessica's show with Dr. John. Hey, chatters. Well, welcome on over to the after hours. We do appreciate you showing on up. Adam Robbins, Kramit Kringle. Okay. I don't know what that means, but I do appreciate you coming on in, Adam. Thanks for showing up. Let's see. Who else do we have in here? We are well, pretty much done. Let's see. Bob Thorson. Okay. Alien Head saying hello. Appreciate you showing on up. Corey said hello, Mr. Rob G. Hello, SOR. Hey, Corey. Thanks for coming on in, supporting the show tonight, along with Crystal J. Thanks, Crystal J, for showing on up to the show tonight. We appreciate you. Moving down the list here. I think that's it. Are we caught up? We are. Yes. Okay. Definitely want to thank everyone for coming on in Spaced Out Radio After Hours tonight. I'm your host, Mr. Rob G. We're going to go ahead and get into our show tonight. Just like I said, we have the awesome gentleman who I'm going to go ahead and bring in right now, Mr. Preston Dennett. Let's go ahead and change our graphic and get ready to bring Preston on into the show. Hello, Preston. How are you this evening?
I'm doing good. Doing pretty good, Rob. How are you?
I'm doing great, Preston. Happy Father's Day, by the way, if you're a father, right? And just, I don't know if you are or not.
I might have some alien babies out there. So,
okay,
yeah, thank you.
That counts. Well, I don't know if you saw, but everybody was showing all this love to you. Everybody's here. They can't wait to see Preston Dennett. And it's always this way when you come. So I just want to give you your flowers, let you know how many people out there are loving you. And me, I appreciate you so much. So just want to kind of get all mushy with you real quick for a minute before we go ahead and jump into the show.
Yeah, thanks. It's awesome to see all the friends out there. I recognize many of the names. So yeah, thanks, guys. I love you all too.
All right. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. So wanted to kind of get into this. This is, I've talked to you now. This is like third time, which is, can't even believe that that's even a thing. But I wanted to know if you could kind of start out, just talk about some of your first encounters and sightings. What ended up leading you to getting into this current research path?
Well, the first sightings I investigated are the first ones I experienced.
You experienced, yes.
All right. Well, I mean, the very, very first one I experienced that I can kind of point to as being, I had gone down to a meeting in Santa Monica, California, to hear this contactee speak. His name is Andy Reese. He had some pretty interesting experiences. And he said during the meeting that he was going to try to call down a UFO afterwards. I thought, yeah, I'm sure you are, but that sounds interesting. And he finished his presentation. It was really interesting. And he said, okay, who wants to see a UFO? Let's go out across the street into the park. Now, this was a pretty big meeting. This was U Forum in Santa Monica, probably 50 people, 70. I thought everyone was going to go out there because, I mean, if he says he can call down a UFO, wouldn't you want to see that?
Exactly.
Right? But no, it was about maybe 15 people. I thought, okay. So we went out there, and this is Santa Monica. It's a pretty densely populated city.
Mm-hmm.
And this is late at night, and there is this kind of park right across the street, but it's busy streets on all four sides. You can see cars driving. I look up, and there's no stars in the sky. You can't see a single star because there's too much light pollution. I'm like, okay, well, this should be interesting. And he gets us all and says, like, stand in a circle and let's meditate. Let's hold hands. I think that's what he wanted us to do, and meditate. And, this is, let me think for a second, probably 1988 or so. And I'm brand new to the field. I've just joined MUFON. I've become a field investigator, just starting to investigate my own cases, talking to a lot of people, but hadn't seen anything. So I'm like, well, meditate, fine. This wasn't quite what I was expecting, but I'm open-minded enough to do it. And we did it for just, 5 or 10 minutes. He's like, okay, you know what? I think they're up there. And he says, yep, in fact, I know they are. They're telling me, look to this portion of the sky. And he pointed to the south, over the ocean. I'm thinking, okay. And he said, don't look away. Keep looking for about 20 seconds. It was less than a minute for sure. And he was pointing at this very specific spot of the sky. And I have to tell you, he was right. Right where he was pointing, this enormous shooting star appeared. That's what it looked like to me. But it was brighter than normal. It came zooming down at a 45-degree angle and flared real bright. I've seen a lot of shooting stars. This was a big one. And I'm not so sure it was a shooting star because he predicted it. There was no meteor shower going on at this time. It was interesting. It was a little bit ambiguous. But I went home kind of like, wow, that was kind of cool. And did notice one other thing. My watch had stopped. What about that? Not terribly unusual because I've never been able to wear a watch for very long. I always break it or it always stops for some reason. But that was the first one that made me go,
Wow, that's insane. So you were already a MUFON investigator at the time. Wow. So, how did that change obviously you're already investigating things at the time for MUFON. Did that alter the way that you approach things once you had that experience?
Not really. Weirdly finding out I was a skeptic. I came into this field like, no, it's not real. You're all stupid. You're all on drugs. You're misperceiving. You don't know how far away the stars are. I was really kind of rude about it and thought pretty arrogant, honestly. But found out, of course, that UFOs are real when my brother shared his sighting with me. And he had witnesses. Found out, I had another friend who saw UFOs. She had a witness. My sister-in-law saw UFOs. She had another witness with her. All these people I knew had seen UFOs and had witnesses. But I was still weirdly even more skeptical because none of them had really shared it with me. It wasn't on the news. It wasn't taught in schools. It wasn't being taken seriously in the media. And I had to reevaluate everything. So I was, in a weird way, more skeptical. Seeing that shooting star-like object kind of, to be totally honest, pissed me off a little bit. Because I'm like, well, that's just not good enough. That could have been a shooting star. And I could not go there and say this was, something unexplained. And I started to get really, kind of not anxious, but really wanting to see one myself. Started to get annoying because I was going out there and I was looking. I was circling around this, getting closer and closer until the point where I was going to see one of these things, no matter how hard or long it took. And of course I did. It took a couple of years after that, but I did. I saw one and it was a good one. This was in the middle of a wave of sightings in Topanga Canyon. It was on June 14th, 1992. My hometown, where I grew up. Never saw anything. And just moved out of the canyon. Had driven through the canyon on that night, June 14th, and went home around 8 or 9 o'clock. Turns out that's when the activity started. And people were calling the police. People were calling the local newspaper. Cars were being chased down the road. One car was lifted up. They had missing time. Objects were coming over people's homes and lighting up the interior. I mean, this was a crazy night. And this was a wave of sightings that went on for about 2 years. And it was 1 month into this because the newspaper called me up, the editor, Colin Penno. I had written an article for the newspaper a couple of years earlier. And he's like, you need to investigate this. Something's going on here. So that's what I was doing. I was right in the middle of this huge investigation. And I was at my brother's house, Mark, who had seen the UFO in Woodland Hills, and with Christy, his wife. It got late. You know, they were kind of helping me through all this because they're both experiencers. They've seen this stuff. And it was probably late July 1992. And it got late. You know, it's 11, almost midnight. And I think it was a Sunday because I remember I had to work the next day. I'm like, I'm going, I've got to go. And so I'm getting in my little Daihatsu car, tiny little 3-cylinder car, and heading down this street called Galandrina. And I had been maybe not even a mile from their house. I was 2 or 3 minutes away, coming around this really tight hairpin corner when I saw what I first thought for a split second was a bird swooping down towards my car up at the right. And of course I looked up at it and it wasn't a bird, it was a round ball of light. And then I'm thinking, well, that's a firecracker. But this darn thing came right down over the hood of my car, right in front of the windshield. So now I'm thinking, okay, maybe a reflection, which I knew it wasn't because this was a ball of light about the size of a little bigger than a golf ball, but not much. And it was white, a little bit of yellow, hard edges. And it's kind of, it wasn't perfectly still. It was fluttering a little bit, but it was right in front of my face, as close to my windshield as I am to my computer. I mean, It's right there. It's over the hood of the car. And I'm sensing something from it, like it's looking at me. It's clearly controlled. And this thing went back and forth, stopped again right in front of me and went straight up. And I forgot the whole darn thing. Completely left my mind, didn't remember any of it.
Yeah. When did it come back up into your memory?
Later that year. Yep,
okay.
About 3 or 4 months in. I don't even know where I was. It kind of just seeped in this weird way where one day I'm like, I kept thinking about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this happened. This actually happened to me. And it took me a long time to realize that, I probably had missing time too, because I don't remember driving home. I don't remember waking up the next morning thinking, oh my God, I saw this orb, this thing. I didn't turn around and tell my brother and sister-in-law. So yeah, that was my first real encounter that changed everything.
That's awesome. That's one to have right there. One thing you did mention a little earlier, and I kind of found that interesting, is when you were talking about the CE5 event, and at the time you'd already been researching with MUFON. But then one thing I keyed in on is you said that you were skeptical, right? So that made me think. So, okay, a MUFON investigator that has skepticism is. You normally think MUFON investigators are probably prior experiencers and that they already believe in UFOs as investigators. But I guess that kind of opens that up to saying that there may actually be a lot of skeptical people that are investigators. Is that true?
Well, later on, I realized that a lot of researchers, and I know some of them who haven't gone public, but I'm going to say most are experiencers. And at some point I realized, well, this isn't my family. Both sister-in-laws have had direct encounters with the ETs. Let me see, my sister-in-law's son, my nephew, had a real close-up UFO sighting and a humanoid sighting. My other nephew, my sister's son, had a real close-up sighting. My sister had some major encounters, one involving apparent missing time, a number of close sightings. Kind of dawned on me slowly, like, wow, I'm fitting the pattern of other contactees.
Yeah.
So I searched my own childhood and I found a few things that were a little odd that might point towards all of this. So yeah, I did come in as a skeptic, but ultimately, it took a year of adjustment. I absolutely believed, and I hate that word because it's kind of, you don't know. There's a difference between belief and knowledge.
Right.
Once you start seeing this stuff yourself, I'm like, well, okay, you can call me a UFO believer if you want. It's true, but I know, I know this is real because that sighting was the first of, like, gosh, must have been 4 major sightings that year. And it just
that was part
up.
of that that was the Southern California UFO flap, right? Is that what it was in 92?
Yep, it was pretty much centered over the Santa Monica mountain range, Topanga, Santa Monica, Malibu, parts of Ventura, out all the way to Catalina Island, really, Woodland Hills a little bit, Venice, all this whole area. But the more I research, I'm still finding sightings that were out into the San Fernando Valley, which is right near there.
Yeah.
So a lot. I mean, we're talking 100 cases that I know about. And I'm sure you can times that by 100 because most people don't talk.
Exactly. I would like to know, because your research spans over, we're talking about the 80s, we're talking about 40 years of research. Have you noticed UFO sightings going up lately, going down compared to the years past?
Well, it seems to fluctuate. I mean, this is what I noticed over the decades, that there would be periods of high activity and then it would slow down and then there'd be a big wave. I remember it was pretty exciting when Withville, Virginia had a wave that got a lot of publicity. Of course, Hudson Valley in New York. Gulf breeze was major. And I was in Mexico when they had a major sighting during the solar eclipse. I didn't see it. I was in La Paz, but over Mexico City, there was a big sighting. It would always spike in the summer months. There was a lot of speculation about why, but to me, it's pretty clear that more people are outside during the warmer months. There was a huge spike in 2020, right during, when suddenly everyone's getting, laid off and the world's in turmoil over, what's going on with the COVID. And I mean, it just about doubled. And you can see this with the UFO reporting centers like MUFON and Newfork. And then it took a steep decline and dropped off majorly. The last 2 years, I don't have any close encounters. I've had some contactees, actually. One lady, she just called me recently. She's like, it's weird, we would regularly have experiences. We haven't had any in 2 years, which just speaks to what Dolly Safran, who is in chat, she's the subject of my book, Symmetry, you know her. She has basically explained what's going on. I'm really thankful for her because, she has the firsthand knowledge. And yeah, the ETs have bugged out. We're not here.
Do you want to go into that? Because I know usually she would be here, so I know she would explain. But are you able to explain why that would be? Why they've gone away?
Yeah. Our magnetic fields of our planet are going through some turmoil right now. It's all connected to the sun and solar activity and coronal mass ejections and sunspots and so forth. There is a regular cycle that our planet, our solar system, goes through, where basically dust and debris collects on the surface of the sun to a point where it blows it out as essentially a mini nova. And we're at the end of a 12,000 year cycle. And you can chart the coronal mass ejection activity, and you'll see there's good science on this. There really is. This is what the ETs taught Dolly. She's educated herself scientifically with what's going on here. Certainly a message I've heard from other contactees as well. And yeah, it's a big deal. This explains why there's been quite a few UFO crashes over the years because UFOs basically use our magnetic field lines to navigate when they're interplanetary or traveling on a planet. Their mode of transportation is different in terms of interstellar distances. But yeah, this is what's going on now. This explains the drop-off in cases. They're still watching over us. Contactees are still in telepathic contact. And if it comes down to it, and it will at some point, with a coronal mass ejection that knocks out our grid, kind of like, look into the Carrington event of 1859, and you'll get a little bit of a taste of what it'll be like. But it'll be such a major coronal mass ejection that it essentially knocks down the worldwide grid, causes all kinds of electrical fires. It's going to be an enormous event that will change everything. And it's going to be difficult for a lot of people. But what's really interesting, and this is a message I've gotten from so many contactees, at some point when it reaches an existential crisis, and there are contactees and people who are, looking for help, the ETs will show up and scoop people up. I've got case after case after case of people who've been told this, shown this, had dreams of this, where the sky fills with craft. And they come down, and most contactees will tell me, the ETs told me it's basically my job to just calm people down, let them know to not be afraid, to help lead them onto the craft. This sounds crazy, to the skeptic inside of me. I almost cringe a little bit when I hear this, because I know how skeptics must think, what must they think when they hear me saying this or hear, other contactees. But, the proof is in the pudding. You just wait and see. I don't go to our governments for answers on this subject. They're lying. They're covering up. They're suppressing UFO evidence. They're misinforming and disinforming. They're pushing a fear narrative. The truth about UFO contact comes from the contactees, like Dolly Safran, like the hundreds of people I've interviewed, like, other researchers that I absolutely trust. Barbara Lamb, I think she's a great researcher. So these are the people I look to, the contactees for UFO information, and this is what they're saying. And I always encourage people, don't believe me, do your own research. Ask your friends if they've had contact, your family, your coworkers. Look to these cases yourself. Do your homework, because we all it's at that point where we really just need to basically get a baseline of what we really know and what we don't know, because it's such a mess out there.
Yeah, I've been playing with the theory lately. I brought this up to other people that I really feel like most of us are probably experiencers and just are unaware. You know what I mean? Like I've been playing with the theory of alien abductions and thinking maybe that the people that most of us may have been at direct contact and maybe even in an abduction. But I think that it is something that we're not supposed to remember. And I think what may be happening is that there are a small percentage of people that just happen to wake up or become conscious during this process. But I think the overall goal for these interactions are for us to not wake up during this process. Just like when we shoot something out in the wild, we tranquilize. It doesn't know what hits it. We get there, we do all of our checking, we tag it, we get out of there. And by the time it wakes up, we're no longer in sight. And I kind of feel like maybe that's how it's supposed to happen. Obviously, we won't know until we get the answers, but I think it makes a lot of sense that it could explain why it seems like only a percentage of people are actually being abducted versus the populace. I don't know what you think about that, but that's just something I've been thinking about lately.
I've got some ideas about it for sure.
What would you say?
Well, first, I don't like the term abducted, because I know most contactees don't. Some are okay with it because they feel that way, but most that I've interviewed don't. And I do think you're right. I think most people have had contact. And I've had a number of contactees tell me this, especially those who have like fully woken up and are having full unconscious contact. A number of them have told me that exact thing, and that most people aren't remembering it. But now the question is why? Why aren't they remembering it? I wouldn't say that they're not supposed to. I think that a lot of people choose not to because it's, there's a whole lot that goes into this process of remembering it. And a number of people are at a point where it's just not useful, perhaps, to them. It can be
in their daily life.
It can cause some fear for them, perhaps. It can alter their worldview that they might not quite be ready for that. It might disrupt their, what would I call it? Their life path, what they came down to do. I think that's true to an extent for me because I was having contact, I'm pretty sure, early on, and I had missing time. Why didn't I remember? Because I feel like I would want to, but I know in hindsight, looking back, that if I had remembered all of that, my research would have shifted from others to me, and it would have been, because I really feel like that's what I agreed to do. That's why I came here, is to sort of help educate people about UFO contact. So I think that's part of what's going on here. A lot of people basically choose not to remember, or just perhaps don't have the ability, or aren't quite there yet, or just waiting. I think the day is coming when a lot of people are going to wake up. And you see this. I mean, this is absolutely a pattern with contactees. Often, some people will remember early on in childhood. Other people get all the way to young adults and realize, well, all these strange experiences are starting to make sense. But just as often, people reach, what we call middle age, or, 30s, 40s, 50s. And that's when they wake up. They'll have a particularly dramatic event. And suddenly, that weird light they saw when they were a kid, and those figures they saw coming into their bedroom, and that time they had this healing, or all these little events that they kind of explained away and pushed to the side and didn't want to talk about and denied, come to the forefront. And I think we're seeing that more and more. So we'll see how this all rolls out. But ultimately, because initially I thought, well, the ETs are just erasing people's memories. It's all on them. And as I've done more and more research, it's an absolute two-way street. Yeah, ETs will encourage it sometimes if that's what the witness wants, or if they feel it's in the witness's best interest. Got a perfect case that speaks to that. Sergeant Charles Moody had an experience in Alamogordo, New Mexico, where he was pulled on board. He fought them. He was really frightened. But once he got on board and they calmed him down, they're like, listen, you're okay. Let's heal your back. You strained it while we were trying to pull you on board. They showed him the craft. It was a very friendly encounter. He said, you're not going to remember this for a couple of weeks. You need to, just calm down, because this basically would cause some harm to him if he remembered too quickly. And he did remember right when they said he would. And I see in case after case, people will have a cue. One guy I interviewed, Scott Santa, had this amazing encounter at a drive-in theater. I mean, this huge craft comes right over the drive-in theater, Ascot Park. This is on the East Coast. And there must be 200 people at this drive-in theater. It blacks out the theater. Any cars that are coming in, the movie was just beginning to start. They all went out. The snack stand, everything went dark. The screen, as this craft comes over, it's making this deep thrum. He gets out of the car with his friend. They're looking at it. There's this eerie silence. Their ears pop, and it just moves over. Off it goes. And as soon as it's over the theater, over the parking lot, and off in the distance, like a switch is flipped. The screen goes back on. The cars go back on. The snack stand, all the lights. And everyone gets back into the car. Nobody says a darn word. And Scott Santa forgot it completely, like everyone else apparently did. And it wasn't until about a year or two later, he's in a bookstore and saw the book by Ed Ruppelt, UFOs. And he remembered. He had that cue, that trigger. He was ready. So this is something I see again and again and again with contactees. There's a memory thing going on here that's really odd. I'm trying to wrap my head around it.
I mean, the evidence in that situation definitely shows that, as far as there must be either a freezing time or, definitely something on their end that's affecting the ability for those people to remember, because that obviously would be a mass sighting. I did have something just looking into crashes, because this is another theory that I have with ET crashes, the ones that all the famous ones we know about, Roswell, etc. Some theorize that those crashes are ETs gifting us these crafts for us to reverse engineer or whatever we're going to do with those. But if you look at examples of like previous space shuttle missions, like STS, I think it was 75, where that projectile seems to come from the Earth shooting out into space, and the UAP kind of, or UFO darts off like that. When you have stuff like that, it makes me feel about some of these crashes that in fact maybe we have shot some of these things down potentially, and that's what's happening. What is your theory on that? Are these just happenstance crashes? Are these ETs gifting us craft, or are we potentially shooting these things down, or a little bit of all of those?
Well, I'm going to just give you my assessment based on my research and what I've learned from basically the contactees and scouring the literature and looking at all of these cases. I don't see any good evidence that ETs are gifting us these craft. I know some researchers have speculated on this, and I followed, what they're saying, but it's speculation. Never have I heard any ET say, "We give this to you." So I'm skeptical of that theory for a number of reasons. One, because contactees have told me no. Dolly Saffron said, basically no. And if, I'm very skeptical of that, what do they call it? The Granada Treaty, where allegedly we traded the ETs, allowing them to have the ability to take people on board in exchange for technology.
Right.
I don't find the reporting on that at all credible. I don't think ETs are going to give technology to a government that they know is greedy, is corrupt, is warlike, has a heinous history of just misbehaving. That's putting it very nicely.
Yeah.
Because we're doing far worse than misbehaving. Our history is not good. So no, I don't see any real good evidence that they've gifted us this stuff. Some good evidence that, when a UFO crashes, it is quickly recovered by the ETs before we can get there. There's a few cases that speak to that. But other cases where no, they didn't do that. And I think the reason why is because suddenly we have all these people around this craft, and to come and get it is going to create an incident that is going to have repercussions that the ETs are not willing to interfere to a degree, that it's going to cause even, bigger waves than this craft being recovered by the military already is causing. So yeah, to some extent, they're like, well, they've got it. It's theirs now. We can't take it. Yes. But no, I don't think they're like, well, we should give this to them and see what they can make of it. I got no good evidence of that. As far as shooting down a UFO, I'm skeptical of those too. I know there's some reports coming out from shady government sources. I don't trust a lot of the intelligence agencies in particular. And that's where I'm hearing some of these reports of that. I'm skeptical of that because honestly, UFOs can fly circles around missiles. These ETs are telepathic to a degree that they know before you're going to press the button, of any type of weapon. They are on it. So this raises the question is, how can there be so many darn crashes? because it's
Right.
not just Roswell. I was talking to Scott and Suzanne Ramsey, who are the investigators of the Aztec crash. That's a pretty well verified incident in 1948. It's another really interesting UFO crash. Of course, one in Paradise Valley, the Kingman crash in Arizona, 1954, I think it was. There's a lot of these things. Kecksburg, 1965.
Mm-hmm.
There's all this talk about one in Italy recently, one on Spitsbergen Island in Europe. And if you look at all the reports, there's like 100 of them or more. That's a lot. So something's going on here. And I think ultimately what it is their UFO activity is far more numerous, more active than most people realize.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of people being picked up. J. Allen Hynek was quoted as saying 1 in 40 people have had an onboard experience, which means millions. That means we all know someone who's been on board. And if you look at the reporting centers like MUFON and Newfork and track their cases going back through the decades, they're receiving 10, 20 cases per day. And you can times that by 100 because most people are not going to report it. So that's what, 200, 300 cases per day. Now, people aren't seeing, this is not something that's coming over a city because these objects often will come down at night, or they know how to block themselves from being viewed by people. They will show themselves intentionally, but they don't have to. So I think there's at any given point in the past, there's someone being taken on board. These objects are coming in and out, in and out, in and out all day long.
Yeah.
So sooner or later, an accident is going to happen, especially because our magnetic fields are tumultuous. They're mercurial. They drop on a dime. And this is what I think is causing the crashes. That's my assessment based on what I've been able to recover from contactees and reading the literature. But no, I don't think they will give us craft.
Yeah, I'm glad
the hand technology.
That was an excellent way to answer that too. I mean, very thought out as well. And it does make a lot of sense because, I think the first thing most people look at is, they're so advanced, they shouldn't crash. But like you stated, and I think I saw even Richard Dolan do a show around this where he kind of did some sort of math on how many he thought were traversing the skies around the world. And it was some massive number, and that this is something that's happening all the time. And it's really like a freeway, essentially, when you talk about the amount of craft that are moving in and out and going up and down and do. So you would think that, with all those massive numbers, that there's going to be occasional crash. So
if we could shoot them down, we would be doing it
all the time.
So I just don't think we have that ability. I don't think people realize quite how advanced ETs are.
Now, I want to ask this, and maybe this will probably carry into the second hour because I know we only have 7 minutes left here, but I wanted to touch on the whole pilot part of this, right? So we have private pilots, military pilots who have talked about their avionics being shut down by close encounters with these crafts in the sky. So we know that to be a fact. And then we've seen lately, especially UAPs or UFOs following commercial craft. Even the president's plane, when it left out of California here, it seems like these things are attracted to planes across the board. So my thought is that, okay, if these craft have affected the avionics, electronics of private planes and military planes, you would think it would also happen with commercial planes with passengers, civilian passengers aboard. I'm sure this has probably happened. I'd love to get your input on it. And then even a step further, I would want to know your thoughts on, would this potentially explain some of the crashes that may have occurred, catastrophic crashes with commercial planes? So if you'd be able to give me some input on that, that'd be great.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you asked that because I have looked into it. Pilots are far more likely to see UFOs and recognize them for being genuine because they're trained observers. They're out there all the time. And yeah, that turns out, of course, to be true. A lot of pilots have seen UFOs. There's been some very close encounters. And I'm like, you know what? There are some people who have been driving along and been struck by a UFO in their car. I mean, there was a collision. And I started looking to all types of collisions. Found 1 or 2 with boats, 5 or 10 or more with cars, and almost, I think it was 4 or 5 with planes. Almost never happens. And when you think about how many flights there are going on daily, if this were a thing, we would be hearing about it a lot more. So I don't think that there's any real danger of UFOs hitting planes. I don't think that there's any really good evidence that mysterious plane accidents are caused by UFOs. There's a couple here and there. I wonder about them. But statistically speaking, it would be absolutely insignificant. It would be 0.00 something percent, because there's, the amount of planes in the sky at any given moment.
Yeah, it's a lot.
If you look at it.
Yeah, I looked into that. It's a lot.
So, but there are some really interesting encounters. I mean, the JAL airline incident over Alaska, that's the one that got me into this field. November 17, 1986. It's right in front of the cockpit, showing itself off. Mm-hmm. I've seen several cases where they're basically flying around the planes. There was a really interesting one in the airbase in Arizona, the one that's right outside of Phoenix, Fort Monmouth, I think it is.
Not familiar.
At any rate, this plane was coming in for a landing, and people at the base saw the UFO right under the guy's wing. And it circled around it and then took off. Didn't harm the plane at all. I interviewed one guy who was flying over Nevada. This UFO came right up next to the plane. I'm like, how close are you talking? He says, it was by the wing. It was right next to it. I'm like, maybe you're, misperceiving it a little bit. How many feet? He's like, I'm telling you, it was practically touching the wing. And he got an instant message from it, that telepathic, presumably from the ETs, that this craft flies using electromagnetics. He calls out to his wife, who's a stewardess working that flight, and I don't think she saw it. But at any rate, he says, could you please ask the pilots? Because they had to have seen this thing. She says, I can't do it now, but I will after the flight. And so they land, and she has to stay on and clear the plane and do all this. And she finally comes off. She's like, you were right. The pilots saw it. They said they got a very clear view of it. They don't know what it is. It's not the first time they've seen this thing. And no, they're not going to report it. This, I think, happens quite a bit more often than we hear about, because pilots learned the hard way. You don't report this unless you want to get grounded. That's what happened to Captain Kenji Torochi at JAL Airlines. They grounded him. He wasn't able to fly for a while.
Wow.
So Richard Haynes, he did a whole book on just pilot encounters. I know Martin Caden, he's an excellent writer. He finally approached the UFO subject. He writes thrillers and stuff. Andromeda's, that's Michael Crichton. I'm thinking Martin Caden. He wrote a book about these kinds of encounters as well, and uncovered a bunch of pilot sightings. I've interviewed a few pilots here and there. One guy, his name is Toshi Inoue, was flying over Santa Monica with a student when they had this big glowing red cigar-shaped UFO not too far away from their plane. And he calls in to the control tower, do you have any traffic? And they said, no. Why? He said, no reason. He thought for a second, should I report this? And he decided not to. Which is such a shame. It's such a shame, because it would be a different world if pilots had the freedom to report this.
Yeah, and that's why I say, and the reason why I asked the question or even look at it that way is because I would figure out of the 3 private versus military versus commercial, that the one you probably would never want to admit that you're having these experiences with is going to be commercial, because obviously that affects the entire world's ability to travel instantly. And like you said, there are certain flights out there that I think about, like the MH370, and then the one you mentioned, the JLA flight as well, where it's like, okay, if they've done this to private planes and military planes, and they've done this various times for whatever reason, the ETs are doing this. They're showing, hey, I can control this, or whatever their purpose is when they do it. Is that if they've done it in those two instances, then they probably have also done it with the commercial plane. The likelihood is there. And then the question would be then, if that has happened there, then did it ever end up resulting in one of these crashes that we just can't explain? Because the problem is the FAA ends up being in the NTSB, I think it's NTSB, ends up being the ones that look into it and come back and say, hey, it was this small mechanical piece that failed. This is the reason why.
Well, back in the 1950s, there were some accidents for sure that were UFO related, because we were trying to shoot them down. Look at the work of Frank Ficino Jr., his book, Shoot Them Down. It's chilling. We did lose some pilots because we were trying to hurt the ETs. They finally stopped doing it. We're like, this is not a good idea.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll talk more about this. This is getting good. And also, I have some other stuff I want to get into with you, like the USOs and what this is all about. So everybody kick back. We have Preston Dennett here with us, and we're going to go ahead and take a pause for the cause and get into our first break of the night, as we'll be right back here on Spaced Out Radio. You guys don't go anywhere.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio.
You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
Is in the chat.
Welcome back, everyone, to Spaced Out Radio after hours number 2 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G, as we get ready to jump back into it with none other than Preston Dennett as we go ahead and talk about various things, cases, research into this subject of ufology, UFOs, ETs. But space travelers, you're already a space traveler. Consider taking the next step and joining the club. That's right, you can join our SOR Space Travelers Club for as little as $5 a month by simply joining our Patreon. We would totally appreciate you do that as we get back into the conversation with Preston Dennett. Everyone in the chat, if you have any questions for Preston, please make sure you put them in caps. I'm going to try to do my best to see them. Do I miss one or two occasionally? Yes, I do. If that ends up happening, just go ahead and put it back in the chat so I can make sure I pin it, and we'll definitely post these on the back end of this hour. So kind of getting back into this, Preston, here's where I wanted to go with this. I've noticed, and maybe just you can tell me from right or wrong, I know you know both sides of this, but it seems like prior to 2017, there were a lot more like network TV shows and major documentaries being done in relation to the phenomena. And of course, you've been in pretty much most of those, along with Richard Dolan, Nick Pope. Have you noticed a downturn post 2017 in invites from these media outlets, or have you noticed that they just aren't doing them as often anymore? What is your thought on that?
Well, I mean, it's a good question. Back when I got involved in this field, there was shows like Sightings. There was another one called Encounters. They had a good run, 5 or 6 seasons at least. I had a brief appearance on a couple of them. Through the years, it kind of comes and goes. There's still some ones that are running now. I mean, Ancient Aliens is still kicking. The Unexplained with William Shatner, I believe that's still airing new episodes. Josh Gates, his show.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed going on his show, talking about USOs. It has, I think, shifted down a little bit, but there's still some really interesting documentaries being made. I really liked the one by Randall Nickerson,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
On the Ariel Elementary. And there was another one called, I think, Phenomena, where they covered Stevensville and the Welsh Triangle, Fukushima, other stuff like this. So, I mean, there's still some stuff out there. It feels like it's pretty much where it's always been. I can say back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, the reporting on UFOs was a lot better. There was newspapers and magazines and lots of local coverage, and that's dried up completely. I subscribed to the UFO news clipping service, and I loved that thing. I got so much information from that, and that's gone. That's just not there anymore. There are no UFO news clipping services because there are really no newspapers. It's all digital.
Right.
Everything now is online, and let's face it, vetting stuff online is a horrendous job because look at the Facebook groups and all the CGI and Photoshop and AI stuff. You can't trust 90% of it.
True.
So in some ways it's good. In some ways, it's made the researcher's job, and frankly, the experiencer as well, quite a bit tougher to get real information.
What led me into that, and what led me just to even look at that and make that even a question, is the other day we did an archive show here on Space Out Radio where we picked the old show from the vault, happened to be Stanton Freeman episode, and then just listening to Stanton Freeman, it immediately kind of made me notice kind of what I'll call like the old ufology, and just the feeling, he brought a different feeling to the field, and it kind of made me realize what may be missing like in today's ufology. So Like, is there, being a part of what I consider like both old and the new ufology yourself, being able to have seen this and experienced it, and how it was and what it is now, would you say that something is missing in today's research?
Yeah, for sure. I really I've got heroes there in the past that I really look up to and try to emulate. Because, James McDonald, he was a scientist who really was a thorough researcher. Walter Webb, he was an astronomer, loved his stuff. Donald Keyhoe, of course, Jim and Coral Lorenzen. There's lots of really good old style researchers, and they've dried up. Now it's more, a lot of people flash in the pan. They're out there to hopefully make a buck or make a splash. There's a lot of people out there kind of doing shoe fitting and cherry picking, pushing an agenda, trying to, they create a theory and then they look for evidence to fit it or fabricate it even. There's people out there looking for money. That's it. That's what they want. And if it takes putting up information that they know is false, there's some really popular websites out there, channels that I know they're putting false stuff up. There's some researchers out there who, I'm going to put that in quotes, because I don't think that they're real honest to God researchers. There's hundreds upon hundreds of researchers right now, and there's only a handful that I like. This is someone I really trust. And I love Linda Zimmerman. Timothy Good, I think, is a great researcher, but he's not really producing right now. Michael Schratt, I think he's very thorough, very objective. Barbara Lamb, I like her stuff. But, there's others. I certainly haven't named all the good ones because there's quite a few of them.
Yeah.
There's some who I'm not going to name. They're on my naughty list. I don't like them. You can see them. They'll grab a hold of the case, talk about it in glowing terms, and then start backpedaling and basically rip it apart. I'm like, what are you talking about? I
think I might know some people that you might be referring to there. And, and that's why I kind of wanted to say that, because you're a part of the old ufology and you still continue, and you're doing it just as passionate as ever today. And that's really why a lot of people hold you in high regard, because, you're like one of the last Mohicans, as it were, and if you had any, if you could shape the new ufology to have integrity and due diligence in researching, like what sort of things, what type of seeds could you put out there for these new researchers that find themselves, the ones that are true to it, the ones that need guidance and would accept guidance from the old guard? What type of advice would you give to those people?
Develop a thick skin, one thing, and don't let criticism or name calling or any of these kinds of things dissuade you from your research. And be very moral about it. Be very thorough. Do the hard boots on the ground research. And that means asking tough questions. And if you're going to start interviewing people, you darn well better record it and make sure you get a person's testimony correct and run it by them before you put it out. Because often, and I do this, whenever I put out a book, I will send them their chapter. They're like, well, this is out of order. And no, I didn't say that exactly. Mm-hmm. This, is what I meant when I said this. And, I forgot to add this part.
Right.
And of course, do as much vetting as you can in terms of fact checking. If someone says stuff that's a little off the charts, do what you can to make sure that, this is legit. Look for character references. There's a big database of UFO cases out there that you can look to when someone says, I saw something at this time. And it's such a treasure find when you find cases that support an incident. When I was investigating the UFO Topanga wave, I went all in. I gave the police my phone number, and they were referring cases to me. I was coordinating with the local newspaper. I was putting up flyers. I had talked to everybody I knew in that area. I was cold calling. I was patrolling the streets at night. I was camping out in people's backyards when they said that they'd seen a UFO. I mean, this is how heavy duty I was taking this investigation. I was going to find out what was going on with this wave of sightings. And I think we need people who are really willing to put in the hard work. Because this is not something, you're not going to get paid for this.
Right.
There's not a whole lot of money in it. And in fact, it's the opposite. And if you think you're going to get fame and fortune and, people, giving you attention, it's not the kind of attention you're going to, expect. You'll get attacked. This is still going on. There are still debunkers in this field. And boy, you should see the names I've been called, even recently on Facebook. People are coming at me hard, accusing me of making up information. Like recently, I said, we have almost 1 million documented cases on record. People said, oh, you've made that up. That's a completely bogus statistic. No, it's not. Because if you look at MUFON, they have 100,000 cases. NUFORC has 150,000. That's right. 250,000 on record from 2 reporting bases in the United States alone. I didn't include APRO or NICAP or QFOS. You can add probably another 100,000 each from those. Still in just the United States. We have 195 countries on this planet.
Right.
But many of them have databases. It's far more than 1 million. I have people accusing me of all kinds of things. I'm like, do your research. It's infuriating. And I don't engage people who are coming at me hard because I don't think they're honestly trying to find the truth. They're contrary. They're trying to press your buttons. I'll give it a chance because I think people are trying to figure out the truth. But yeah, it's a mess out there. So if you're planning on researching this, follow your excitement, pick that area that really interests you, whether it's onboard experiences or a geographical area. Lots of room for research there. Pick a location and scour it and get to the history of it. I started that with UFOs over California because what was the guy? Bob Teets. He did UFOs over West Virginia. So that's a good idea. There's no books out there covering states. And so I did like 4 or 5 of them. And then boom, 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 boom. People started doing that. I'm like, yes. Yeah. This is preserving historical accounts. There's lots of room for geographical studies, and this sort of thing. But how UFOs are operated, all kinds of areas. USOs are getting a lot of attention.
Which is something I want to get into is actually in the second here, and I just want to say that's excellent advice for any aspiring researchers, any up and coming researchers, because ufology has lost something because a lot of the old guard. I mean, you're active still in this, in putting out new stuff and putting out new research results, things of that nature. But a lot of the old guard isn't active anymore. Like shout out to Dolan and Linda Moten Howe and down the list, along, like you say, a long list of people who Michael Schrad, all the ones still contributing to the space. And it's just so important that someone connects with what you're saying, because we need that back. We need that. Like I always think if Stan Freeman was still here, like what would he say about these hearings, and what would he say about some of the things? He probably have that sort, that I don't even know what you call his tone, sarcastic sort of tone when it comes to challenging the authorities or the secret keepers, right? So, and I think some of that stuff is missing. So it's awesome that you went ahead and answered that. Now, I do have something else. So I've been kicking around some theories about these ETs and what I think that they're doing here, because I had a sighting where I captured the 47 objects, I'll call them, at one time. And they were in a formation. So and I've seen them in Mexico in the same type of numbers. And it just makes me wonder, okay, why you see everyone reports the occasional one or the two or three in a triangle shaped or things of that nature. But when you see 47 or when you see 100 of these things at one time, like what is the real purpose there? And I have to wonder, are they, when I see them doing that, are they patrolling our skies? And then if they are, it brings up the question that, is this would you consider this? I'll ask you this. Would you consider this an invasion currently that we're experiencing? Would you call this a visitation? Or would you call this like an occupation, the same way we, as the American military, go over and plant our roots in other countries and patrol those areas, keeping the area safe, essentially, from threats that may come from the outside. And that's what I mean by occupation. So are they here protecting us, patrolling our skies, protecting us from maybe some other species or something out there? Are they just here to visit? Have they coming back and forth? Or are they coming in numbers to, some people think, just take over the planet or take our resources? What would you say, in your opinion?
I would not characterize it as an invasion, because we do know they've been around forever, since probably before recorded history. There are a number of cases involving quite a few objects. I looked into it in my latest book, Not From Here, Volume 5. I had a whole chapter on cases involving huge numbers of objects. And it's pretty rare, actually. No, I don't think they're planning on occupying our planet. And while they do intervene, it's to a pretty limited extent. Yes, they are pulling people on board. And I think if you take a real close look at the onboard experience, their mission, their goal is pretty clear. And it's not just me saying this. There's many researchers who specialize in the onboard experience. So we know basically why they're here. Yeah, some are touristy. Looks like they're coming down, they're checking things out, and off they go. Mm-hmm. Some are checking out our technology and our power sources and our resources. So we do see UFOs hovering over nuclear power stations, sometimes intervening, like in Malmstrom, where they shut down the missiles and sent a little bit of a message there that nuclear material is dangerous. But we see them over dams and power stations. We see them over various areas where I think they're just checking it out, making sure things are okay or seeing where we're at. I think sometimes they have a mission to announce their presence. And I would point to this many, many schoolyard cases. I wrote a book about that. There's over 100 of them. I found another 100 since then. Same with the drive-in theater cases. These are really good examples of displays, as researchers call them. And this is clearly a mission to announce their presence, to conduct essentially a vigorous publicity campaign and just let us know simply that they're here. So that's another thing that they're doing. And I think that's true in some of these massive flyovers, like what happened in 52 in Farmington, New Mexico. Little town, like 3,000 people. Some 200 or 300 objects appeared and just flew for over an hour, left and came back. This was clearly, they meant to be seen. But yeah, we know why they're here. They're scooping people up. They're taking plant samples. They're taking soil samples. They're taking samples of genetics of all the life forms on our planet, many of which are going extinct very quickly. They're preserving the genetics of all life on our planet, and that includes us. They're upholding our genetics. Healing is clearly a big part of why they're here. And don't believe me, look at the cases. The first-hand cases speak to this so loud and clear. I can't imagine that this doesn't get more publicity than it does. I just found another really interesting case of this couple who were driving along a mountain highway. I think this was, in Peru. At any rate, they had a UFO land right in front of them. Two ETs came out, put their hands on their backs. They both felt this burning heat run through their bodies. ETs left. Very brief encounter. So strange. What are they doing? This couple were suffering from arthritis. It was cured. Absolutely cured. So this comes up again and again. Healing is a big part of it. Waking people up, their own psychic abilities, that comes up quite a bit. And warning people, warning them about nuclear proliferation, warning them about pollution, destruction of the environment, warning them about greed and corruption, war and aggression. All of this comes up. That is why they're here. In a nutshell. Uh-oh, Rob, what's going on? You okay?
They took me. Yeah, I'm having the actual cable issue, so I'm actually trying to fix that right now. I should be right back up here.
And yeah, I think we have a pretty good handle. And I got into a whole discussion on Facebook with this guy who's like, "How do you know what's going on?" I'm like, "I didn't say I did. I'm telling you to look at the first 10 cases. They will tell you exactly why the ETs are here." It's pretty darn clear. I love, the Malmstrom case. I think I saw a question in chat about Malmstrom. Is that unique? No, it's not. UFOs have hovered over anything nuclear. There's a very interesting case over the Palo Alto case or plant in Arizona. Of course, the what's it called? I forget the name of it. There's a nuclear power station in upstate New York where a UFO hovered over one of the facilities there, where there was a crack in one of the towers. And they would not have noticed it if this UFO had not hovered over it for like 20 minutes. Apparently it was caught on film. We'll never see it. But anything nuclear, they're very, very concerned about.
Yeah, I had another question as well. So, because I wanted to, Richard Dolan, I've seen him as well. He talks about in the past upon his research, he believes there's a great number of UFOs in the skies and then also under the water. And I know that you have researched and looked into cases of that as well. Are you able to talk to us about these UFO sightings? Why do you think they are seen going in and out of the ocean, if you had to give your perspective?
Yeah, I had to do a lot of research and trying to figure that out, because I started getting USO cases from the beginning of these objects, particularly off the Southern California coast. I think I got a lot of those cases because that's where I'm based. But for whatever reason, there are a lot of cases there. Objects underwater, objects going into the water, objects coming out, sometimes both. I think that there's probably a couple of reasons. I talked to Dolly Saffron about this. She says, honestly, the craft get really hot and they go down there to cool off. And that makes total sense, because I started looking at cases and you see it all the time. A craft will come, lands on the water, lets up this cloud of steam and dips under the water, and then off it goes. Or it might not necessarily be seen going away. It might travel somewhere and you don't see it. But many cases like this. I think also because they can do this. So it's a way for them to basically evade detection. If they don't want to be seen, it's a very easy way to do it. And I can tell you there are cases of these objects in tiny little reservoirs, quite a few of them, rivers, lakes, oceans. I mean, you name it, a body of water. There's many cases of them sucking water up, apparently using it as every entity needs water, probably for drinking and what have you. I don't think that they use it as a fuel source. I have not found any really good reporting on that, there's been speculation on that, but I'm not so sure that that's true. But definitely USOs are a thing. There's a lot of them. I mean, I think there's more down there than a lot of people realize or were.
Yeah. I'm feeling that way too. And this is actually funny right here, what I'm about to say, because I don't know if you're familiar with this show, but I've been watching this show on Netflix. It's a comedy sort of show, but it's called Resident Alien, right? I don't know if you've seen this thing. It's tongue-in-cheek, you know what I mean? But it does touch on some of the things that we're doing that are going on within ufology. So there was this one episode, I think I watched it today actually, and it depicted, just to set the stage for everyone. The Resident Alien is the show. It says alien that crashes his craft here. He's supposed to be coming here to destroy the world, but he gets stuck here, and he takes on a human form, and he integrates with humans, and he's trying to fix his craft. The show is him trying to fix his craft. So he there's a scene where he goes into this bar or this restaurant, and you go into a restaurant, you have the fish tank, usually lobsters, octopus, things of that nature in the tank. So he goes up to this tank where there's this octopus, and he has this conversation with the octopus, and the octopus is talking to him, and as if the octopus itself was also not from this world and happened to been stranded on this planet as well. And it was funny because a lot of people say, and I've even, I always look at how smart octopus or octopi, whatever you want to call them, and always wondered, for them to be that intelligent, are they potentially somewhere, brought here from somewhere else? What I'm leading into is it possible that some of these ET species that do go underwater, that they may be aquatic in nature? Like maybe on their home world, they're an aquatic species and they're just most comfortable in the water. Have you heard anything like that? Any reports of anything like that?
Well, yeah, there are a few scattered reports. I don't hear it a lot, I have to say. By and large, almost universally, ETs are described as bipedal. But there are some interesting contactee reports about this sort of thing. I don't think we can completely rule it out. I have studied the octopus. I find it fascinating because it's getting a lot of attention from mainstream scientists who say, this is quite a bit different than any other life form on Earth in a number of ways. Far more intelligent than we thought. Some really funny stories about that. One guy had a pet octopus, and he kept wondering why the TV was being turned on and off. Turned out this octopus was crawling out of the tank and playing with the remote. It knew how to turn on and off the TV. No joke.
That's scary.
Yeah, and there was an award-winning documentary, My Octopus Friend, I think, or no, My Octopus Teacher, which is worth watching and will wake you up. There was another documentary recently on TV about octopus and how smart they are.
They're very smart. They're problem solvers. They can do things like unscrew caps, so they can use their limbs to perform tasks. And so those limbs, if they can open up a jar, they can fly a spaceship, in my opinion.
And I hope to hear a report of an octopus ET, but
but here, you compare it to like a lake by call, right? Where supposedly those divers go in there and there's ETs underwater with these helmets breathing under there. And it would appear that those ETs you would assume those have to be aquatic species. You would think, but it's not proven, obviously. But I just compare it to something like that because it would make sense then that they feel more comfortable under the water, and that's why they choose to go there instead of occupying the land. You know what I mean? And if
we ourselves are very much aquatic as a species. We all live next to. Most of the population lives next to a shoreline. If you chart the population on this planet. There was a whole thing about we're aquatic apes, which I found kind of interesting because we are largely hairless compared to other primates. And they think that might be a factor here because we are so into the water.
Yeah. I don't know that we like to go underwater, though. There's only a few that do. But, looking at
gills.
Looking at that, based on your research, and since we're talking about different species, based on your research of the different species that have been reported, different cases, if you had to make a list, 2 columns, one was malevolent species, one is benevolent species, which ones have you been told are benevolent species, just to kind of set the stage for people who may have heard that there are different species but don't know who's who or what's what?
Yeah, well, benevolent versus malevolent, it's a hot button topic. There's a lot of speculation and controversy and honest to God lying, I think, because there are people who report very malevolent encounters. And some of them I don't think are telling the truth. And some are victims of my labs, military abductions. And some have an encounter that's not really malevolent, but is just darn scary. And they don't like it. And they will interpret it as malevolent. If I had to put a list of malevolent ETs, it may be humans. I'll put that down there because we kill each other. I'm sure there's other humanoid species out there who are probably not starfaring, who are at the same level of evolution we are in terms of ethically and morally and spiritually and psychically, who are still struggling with treating each other correctly. But from what I can tell, I don't think ETs are malevolent across the board. I really don't. And I get some flack for this. People are like, oh, you just think it's all puppies and rainbows. Never said that. I know that it can be very difficult for contactees. They can have a very hard time with it in the beginning, especially. I have to tell you, most of them, over 90%, tell me that, no, I don't think they're evil. I don't. And it might take them a while to come to that conclusion and realize this is something they asked for. This is something they're benefiting from. Because in the beginning, it's a lot of trauma. It's a lot of fear. It's a lot of confusion, especially because we're taught to fear. And there's so many lies out there. But if you look at these cases objectively, throwing away your belief system, you're not going to find a whole lot of ETs performing sadistic behavior, trying to hurt or scare people. There's occasional pain reported in some of these examinations or healings. It's not nearly as common as you might think. As far as malevolent species, I might, and I'm going to put that, in kind of an underline might, reptilians, because I don't get a whole lot of those. I'm not sure they're ETs as we would think of them. Probably better termed cryptoterrestrials. I'm not sure you call them malevolent if they're just looking for a meal and are out there hunting like, an alligator would or something. Right. I'm not sure that they're eating people, but I think that, if I had to worry about it, that would be, I can't tell you because I don't have cases like that. I just don't get a lot of reptilian cases. And I have to be skeptical because I've built a pretty big database where I should have gotten reports of malevolent aliens if they're out there.
Right.
And I'm just not getting them. And I don't edit. This is another thing I would tell new UFO researchers. Don't edit. Don't censor. Ask every question you can because some of it's going to be high strangeness. Don't be afraid of that because this is happening. So, yeah.
You know what I think about that, Preston? They say dead men tell no tales. So maybe the ones that are malevolent are making sure their victims don't come back to tell the story, and that could be the reason why research doesn't come back. Same thing like with the missing 411, where some people believe, I'm not saying I do, but a lot of people believe that those people are just being taken off planet to be never returned. So then they, in fact, don't get to come back and tell their own stories.
I spoke with David Paulides directly. I think there's a lot going on with the missing 411. A lot of people get lost. It's a vast wilderness out there. A lot of people get eaten by animals. There's human trafficking. There's government experimentation going on. If you could directly tie a case into UFO activity at that time that other people observed, I would be more inclined to believe something like that. But I think we have a tendency to impose our own belief systems, our own cultural values, because of the way we treat each other. We assume that this is how others are going to treat us. And I'm just not so sure that's true.
I get it. That's all we know as human beings, so we can't even think outside of that box. So I can understand that. So David Paulides, what is he overall then believe, as far as the cases he's covered? Does he believe that it falls into human trafficking, just prosaic explanations, nothing to do with ETs?
Yeah, well, I like his research because he's very factual about it, very thorough. He says, this is what happened and this is what we know. And he leaves it a mystery. And that's what another good advice for a researcher. Don't impose your own beliefs. Don't push a narrative.
Right.
Put out the evidence. And at some point, it'll become clear what's going on. And we're certainly seeing that with UFOs. I did talk to one lady, by the way, in Maine, who was told by the ETs, if people should start disappearing from this planet, we're doing it. And it's for humanity's welfare. I think some people are being pulled off this planet, going to live with the ETs. I have some firsthand cases myself of this. I know Timothy Good talked about this. I know of other cases. So yeah, I think that does happen, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. There are other better places to live out there than Earth, which is, not an easy place to live.
Yeah, I've heard some, I can't remember who I spoke to, but I know someone I interviewed said maybe they're just like, they're agreeing to go and not come back, saying, hey, I'll go with you guys. Like, and maybe that's the case. And that sounds that, because I know some people that would definitely take that ride if it was presented to them, and wouldn't care about coming back here to this planet. So yeah, that could definitely be a thing. Let me hop in. I got at least 4 questions here. Let me jump into Polly Rotterman's question. She says, Preston, do you think the Bermuda Triangle is some sort of portal because planes and I guess also ships get lost there?
No, I don't think it's a portal. It might have magnetic anomalies. Planes are lost all over the world. People have started pointing to, this is the Dragon's Triangle, and there's the Great Lakes Triangle and the Alaska Triangle. And I don't think we have any good evidence that there's a portal of any kind there. There's a lot of sludge and mud on the bottom and methane. Methane bubbles rise. There was some really good scientific reporting on this. It can turn the water into, you can't float a boat on it. It will just sink because there's so much air bubbles in it. And it can wreak havoc with electrical systems. I think there are some weird electrical anomalies going on there. I can't say I've studied this in depth. I've certainly read all the books I can find on this subject. It's interesting. But I don't think we're going to find Flight 13 or whatever on board a UFO or somewhere on Uranus or something, or on the moon or anything like that. No, I don't think there's a portal there.
Definitely. Okay, we got Maggie M10 all the way from the other side of the world, saying, any advice on what we should do if we potentially have the realization we have had contact or encounters?
Yes, one is do your research, look into the subject, and you'll see that a lot of the experiences you're having, a lot of people are having. Before you even do that, write it down. And I'm going to underline that, write it down, because again, there are some memory issues with this subject, and this will help you keep it straight. And it's also very therapeutic. Connect, if you're having trouble emotionally, there's also kinds of support groups out there. I would encourage people to talk to their family, because if you're having encounters, chances are your parents have had encounters. Can't tell you how many contactees I've talked to who never had the opportunity, just waited too long to talk to their parents about this. And some have. And some have told me their parents were on their deathbed and said, I'm sorry I didn't tell you this, but I had this and this and this happen. I wouldn't advise hypnosis unless you're having, crippling anxiety. If you're having nightmares and you can't live a normal life, then I would consider it. But meditation would be the first thing I would consider suggest for anyone who's having encounters. So that would be it in a nutshell.
Okay, and then we have let's see. We have Paramarv asking, what about the Lovett case from 1954? This seems like it may fall under malevolent. I just don't think we know who did it. Are you familiar with that case?
Not
Me either.
the information provided. No, I might be, but it's not ringing a bell.
Yeah, elaborate if you can, Paramarv, and I'll come back to that question. We have Sierra, who says, Preston, what if these ETs walk among us looking like humans and they have already, quote, taken over our resources and government?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a trick question. We are all ET. ETs have been around forever. I think what we're seeing now with the evils on our planet is coming from human agents, not ETs. I don't think we have any really good evidence that our government officials are extraterrestrial. Given, I mean, it's a speculative question, and it's hard to answer something like that. But I don't see any good evidence that our politicians are reptilians in human form or anything like that.
Yeah, I'll say any video I've seen where they show the president and then they show the reptilian guy who's supposed to be Secret Service, and that stuff is not, I'll say in those videos, those things aren't real. And I hate when they show that because they cloud the narrative. If there is any basis to this for real, showing things like that and saying, hey, this is an example of reptile. I had a person who was showing it ended up being this R&B singer named Chris Brown. A lot of people are familiar with. He was playing basketball and he goes to dunk the basketball, and the way that he held it, he kind of cupped it in his arm like that, but it made his fingers look extra long. And a lot of people were like, oh, he's a reptilian, his fingers got extra long, and they did. I'm like, come on, man. If we're doing stuff like that, that's not helping anything at all. Like, let's look at this. I explained it away in a moment, and it's like, I would go with you. I'm an open-minded person. If this is really something, let's look at it and see. But if it's obviously not what it is, then we have to quit spending energy on things like that.
It doesn't make sense that ETs would want to take over our world and they have access to the entire universe.
Yeah. Now, I had something. I had a question for you. So, in your research, have you do people submit to you images of craft and things of that nature? Do you get a lot of those?
Not a lot. It certainly does happen. And
okay.
I have to tell you, I'm not a photographic expert, so I always put that forward because I'm not. But I've certainly seen some really impressive photographs. I've seen a lot of people sending me, clouds, and look at the face in this cloud, or look at this orb. When people take photographs of, lights at night, it's not particularly useful from an analytical angle. There's not a whole lot of information you can get out of something like that. What I find far more valuable is when people attach a narrative, their experience to a particular photograph and have multiple witnesses. Then someone is willing to put their name behind what their photograph and explain it in detail, how they saw this object arrive, how they saw it leave, and so forth. But no, I don't find a lot of the photographic evidence is convincing as certainly it was in the past, because it's so easily faked right now.
Yeah. And I guess that's more of kind of what you come up against nowadays, is that fact alone, that is this fake or is this not, based on that. Thank you, Maggie, for the awesome super chat all the way from the other side of the globe. We do appreciate you and your love for Space Out Radio and Preston Dennett here today. So I just wanted to show you this, right? So I had compiled some things in my own sighting, and then this is just something, since we know each other, this is something that I wanted to show you here. By the way, shameless plug, this is a new show I have, my experience with the phenomena. You guys make sure you come and check it out on my channel. Aloha Dave was just on there recently. We may be having Lee Strauss, since he's agreed to come on, and a lot of other people that you guys know from this channel. But here's the photo here. So these are the 47 objects I captured flying in the sky right over my head. They were round in shape. They had these little black objects sticking out of them. So I don't know if you've seen anything like this, if anything like this has been reported to you, But these things disappeared into thin air, all 47 of these objects. And I've never done this before, but I did an artist depiction of what they look like, because here you can't really tell the shape. But this is what they look like. And this is a close-up version of what they look like zoomed in. So very strange, very weird, not from here, not from this planet. Don't know, I think that there are ET drones, maybe released from something bigger, but this is what they actually looked like with the naked eye. So they were sort of round, kind of oblong. They had these black pipe-like objects sticking out the bottom, and there was like 47 of these. These are the same objects that are in all the famous videos that they show in Mexico City, I think 2004, 2012. It's been various incidents in Mexico that depict these objects. I was just wondering if you have seen in your research anyone submit anything that looked like this to you.
Can't say that I have. In terms of photographic evidence, no. I really can't. And again, I'm not a photographic expert. I would go through the whole list of questions that I ask people, and I want to talk to all the witnesses who were there, and go through the whole thing and try to determine anything that it might be in the sky. But yeah, I don't know, Rob.
Yeah, I know.
To say.
Here's the thing. I submitted it to MUFON, so maybe I'll get you the MUFON number. I don't know if you're able to end up at some later time, maybe looking into what they found on that. But I did submit this to MUFON, and they tried to initially come back and tell me that they were wedding balloons. But I showed them other cases within MUFON where they were determined to be of an unknown status. And I found out the unknown with our guest last week, Karen Hill, director of Tucson MUFON, that she stated that unknown essentially means that it's nothing explainable, right? Which would lean more into the maybe not from here narrative. So I guess we could talk more about that. I just wanted to see if anyone had happened to send you anything that looked like that, as I try to figure out what in the world these things are. So, but if you haven't seen it, you haven't seen it. Maybe I should submit these cases to you, Preston, so you can curate my case as well.
Hey, I'm always willing, to look into cases, because there's a lot of stuff going on out there. But generally, I can say when people see UFOs, they do behave in a certain way. They will move very quickly, stop on a dime, turn at right angles, and whiz off. They generally don't meander around in a very lazy fashion, so I don't know if that's what you saw. There'd be all kinds of questions I would ask, and it's important to talk to other witnesses. It's amazing how people who are at the same event will sometimes describe things a little bit differently.
Exactly.
Once you have, a good 4 or 5 people, and then they're all describing things. Okay, now we're starting to get a handle on what's going on here. But yeah, what I like about that, Rob, is I trust you. I know you're not putting up something CGI to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that means, that's volumes. That takes the weight of that right off my back right there, because frankly, a lot of people are just trying to fool the researcher.
Exactly. And that's what I say. And that's why I always tell people, me, myself, and I think what people, especially who frequent this channel, know that I'm just a straight shooter. Like anything that ends up happening with me that I present ends up being genuine, no fluff, no extras, anything embellishing or anything that goes into anything that I present. And the weird thing is I've been having a lot of weird stuff going on, Preston. Not even just that. I've been having shadow people lately that we have a picture of as well. I've had these orbs that have been triggering my Ring camera here at the house, and it's just a lot of crazy stuff going on with me. And I don't know why. I don't know why it's all happening, but
those are signs of being a contactee. Just saying.
Yeah.
It all comes together. It's a rare contactee that doesn't have a wide variety of paranormal experiences going on.
Yeah, and some people have said, and I think Jax, who will be on here in the next hour, Said maybe it's just showing itself to you. Maybe it's saying, hey, this is real. I'm real, and kind of confirming things for me when it comes to the phenomena, because these things have been happening back to back. But it's always a great time talking with you, Preston. I'm so glad that that you accept the invites. You come in. You're just a great guy. You're always willing to dig into what you've researched, share everything with us. I love the fact that you continue to do this research and compile all this evidence, and you should get some sort of award. We needed like a ufology, some sort of award where we can give you something showing you the appreciation that we have for your work, sir. And I know the chat, they say they love you, but we want to show you, man. So just keep doing what you're doing. Keep inspiring the next generation of researchers. And, obviously I'm going to reach out to you again at some later time and we can continue the conversation.
Hey, pleasure and an honor. So thanks very much.
All right. Can you tell everybody where they can find you? Because you are on all the time. You're putting on shows all the time.
Yeah, of course. Well, I've got a website, pretty easy to find. Punch my name in, it'll take you there. You can contact me through my website. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. My books are available on Amazon. I've got a YouTube channel where I put out my research. I do a podcast each Monday evening with Dolly Safran called The Light Gate, 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern. We're having a lot of fun with that, talking to experiencers and researchers. So yeah, I think this is an important subject. We all do our part, and I'm very happy to see so many people, waking up to this. It's a new era for humanity, I think, because there hasn't been any movement officially for a long, long time. And now people are talking about this in ways they've never done before. So that to me is really good news.
Awesome stuff, Preston. And Dolly, got to come next time as well. Shout out to Dolly Safran out there. I know I've seen you in the chat. I did. Was that her?
Yeah.
Hey, Dolly, thanks. Thank you so much. And we love our Preston, right? Deb from Sax Says So, right here with the super chat. Definitely want to thank you, Preston, for coming in. Have a great rest of your day. And with your alien babies, enjoy the rest of your Father's Day. And you take care, sir.
I sure will. Thanks.
All right, later.
You too.
All right, guys. Preston Dennett. Round of applause. My applause button is working. Yes. Congratulations. You guys got through a successful 2 hours here with Rob G and Preston Dennett. Awesome interview. A lot of great stuff covered. What we're going to do, though, is get ready to pause for another cause and take a break and get ready to go into our hour number 3 right here on Spaced Out Radio. And we should be joined by Jax and Lee. So you guys kick back. We'll be right back.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the
You're
needle.
listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio.
You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 3 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G, as we go ahead and get ready to do some more awesomeness. Want to thank our guest for tonight, Mr. Preston Dennett, as we go ahead and prepare to get into the paranormal report with Jax Harmon. And I think Jax is accompanied by a guest today, so we'll go ahead and be looking into that as well. Space travelers, since you're already space traveling, consider taking the next step and join the club. That's right, you can join the SOR Space Travelers Club for as little as $5 a month by joining our Patreon. Right, very easy to do. Come be a part of the team. Other than that, let's go ahead and get into the paranormal report with Jax and Mr. Lee Strauss. How are you guys today?
Hi, guys.
Hello.
How are you?
Right. Awesome stuff. Hey, it's been awesome all day. I just got off with Preston Dennett. How awesome is that, right? First of all.
Yeah.
And then now I'm in hour 3, and I got Jax Harmon and Lee Strauss about to bring in some more awesomeness. So it's just getting better and better for me. What we got going on today, guys?
Well, it's Father's Day, so I'm going to say happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there for sure. Absolutely.
True fact.
Yeah.
True fact. Happy Father's Day as well,
Happy
sir.
Father's Day.
Yes. I know you guys been cooking up some good stuff. You guys in the background cooking up some great stuff. The show has been announced, will be coming out pretty soon here. And you guys are currently doing some background research and stuff. So I'll go ahead and let you guys share what's going on and what you have for us today.
Well, if anybody knows of Mount Shasta and like all the magical stuff that happened down at Mount Shasta, you know, they talk about these underground bases where these Malarians or some kind of other race live under Mount Shasta. But up here in Washington State, we have a mountain called Mount Adams. And it's just as mysterious as Mount Shasta is. In fact, there's a lot of indigenous people from the area who believe that there are spirits and so forth that haunt that mountain. In the past, we've caught UFOs coming out of the mountain and going into the mountain. I've got plenty of evidence, plenty of video of that happening, as well as I've heard a lot of Bigfoot calls and Sasquatch type activity there. So our plan is to head over there and do, basically 4 days of research.
That's going to be awesome.
Supposed to be there now, but unfortunately, due to bad weather, we had to postpone it until this coming up weekend. So we're actually going to be leaving Thursday. We'll be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then coming back Sunday. So yeah, so we're hoping maybe we can go live with you on Saturday night while we're there, and actually let you guys see like exactly what we're doing and all the activity. Hopefully we'll be having activity at that time, and then share with you guys what we have experienced already before we go live from like Thursday to Saturday.
Right.
So yeah, we're really looking forward to that. So we've got
as are we, because hopefully, and I'm hoping you guys capture something. I'm hoping you capture Bigfoot, and with Lee's super awesome camera setup out there, I'm hoping you're catching some UFOs as well, because I know the stars have to be pretty bright out there. And I just keep, and I told this to Jax, Lee, that the camera, I took a picture of your screen with my camera, and you could still see the detail of the stars that you were capturing, ones we couldn't even see with our eyes out there. So I know if anybody has the equipment to catch this stuff, Lee has the gear.
Yeah. I've got a lot of the gear, and Jackie's got a lot of the time in paranormal research, so we both come with something. Doing this investigation. She's been doing Bigfoot investigation almost her whole life, with her parents and so forth, and then by herself. So I'm hoping to learn a lot from her, showing her some of the gear that I've got and some of the equipment. And, she'll be able to look at my stuff and say, this is what we need to do with your trail cameras. Instead of setting them up this way, maybe we should set them up like, one trail camera facing another trail camera, and doing some other things that I really haven't done in the past as far as my setup is concerned. So we're really hoping to learn a lot from each other.
Yeah. So this is actually a big learning experience for both of us on both ends of it. So it's going to be a lot of like learning and researching and just having a really good time, really out doing what we love. But we're really excited about being able to bring that to you guys, that live show to you, so you guys can have that experience with us. So
exactly,
it's going to be a lot of fun. We're so excited.
We are. And with the equipment that we have, I use Starlink to link up with, and that way I can show live, what all my cameras are capturing during that time. So it's a benefit for everybody else too. So we're definitely.
I can't wait because I know, the way you guys would have been doing that right now in hour 3, but since the weather's messed up, we'll wait till. But it builds up the anticipation and the, I won't be able to wait. I won't be able to sleep all week. I'll be waiting to see what you guys do here, because I know it's going to be, a nice presentation as far as the way you guys are putting it together mentally. I already know. It's not just going to be turn on the camera and watch us do. It's going to be a lot more to it. I know that. Is this indicative of what the show will be like, or what? I don't know.
We're hoping to add a lot of that in. About usually, generally speaking, once a month, I actually go out and do a field investigation, and then I can broadcast that. I don't know how that's going to work with Spaced Out Radio yet, but we'll figure that out as we move forward, because the time that I usually do those sorts of things is during, when you or Dave has his show going. And, obviously I can't take that space and that time up with what I'm filming in the sky.
Okay, okay.
or
Logistics.
using my equipment. So I don't know how that's going to work.
We'll figure that out.
We'll
But
figure it out.
We're going to make sure that we go out in the field more often, even if it's California or like I'm here in Washington right now, spending 10 days here. And technically, I actually have some information out for for some people who don't really know this. I'm not even sure you know this, Rob, but today is actually the 50th year exactly to the day that I started going out bigfooting. That's
I did have no idea.
Today is yeah.
Wait,
So
50th?
I started going out when I was 4 years old, and today's my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday! We should have started with that. Hold on. Happy birthday to Jax. Everybody, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jax. Happy birthday to you.
Aw, thank you, you guys. That's so sweet.
Come on, Jax. Oh, yeah. Awesome.
Well, that
man.
was why I was so looking forward to being out there on my birthday, and but it's okay. The weather didn't permit for that, but it's still going to be a super special time for us in the next few days. But you know, we're going to start getting our stuff together here and head out Thursday, and we'll be all set up, and hopefully we'll have some really cool activity. But like Lee said a minute ago, like I'm really looking forward to being able to show him all the things that I grew up learning, and him show me that, side with the UFO Skywatch and the cameras. And I'm super curious about how all that works. So yeah. It's a learning process for both of us, really.
Yeah. So Lee, as far as the UFO research goes, I mean, the Bigfoot research goes, Lee gets to be the grasshopper and you get to be the sensei. And then when it comes to capturing the data, Lee is then the sensei and you become the grasshopper.
That's right. Right.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I like it.
Yeah.
So I know Lee, I know most people know or should know that you currently already have the show, Lee and Ander, right? So
that's correct.
You want to go ahead and talk about the show and kind of let everybody know where to find it and stuff?
Yeah, well, it's Ander and Lee on the Trail, and we've done 2 seasons of that show on our Facebook and a YouTube channel, so they can find us on YouTube at Ander and Lee on the Trail. We started out, we never thought we were going to be really making a show, but it just kind of ended up that way. And after this 3rd episode, we really got into our groove. And Ander's great at editing video, so we piled all this video that we had taken on our shows and put it together and actually made episodes, or over the night or over actually several days sometimes on some of the expeditions that we have done. He puts it all together, and the shows are great. They're really good.
They are quality.
I started doing this research about, I would say, 12 years ago, doing the UFO research that I've been doing, and it's been a blast for me. It's always a rush when you capture something that you can't explain in the sky. It's been a lot of learning about how film works. How you get frame rates with any camera that you're using, and sometimes you can change those and so forth just to get a better look at what you're capturing on film. But it's been a learning process. In the very beginning, you might have thought that maybe a bug was something, but over the past years, I've learned in that, and also because my grandfather and my father were photographers, and that's how I kind of got into photography in the first place. So, but yeah, it's a blast.
That's actually one thing that I do have in common with Lee is over the years and many, many years of people sending me pictures and video, especially video, about different things they see on camera, like you were showing earlier. You'll often be able to tell if it's a bug or if it's, dust or whatever, or if it's actually something that, is legit, it's oh, well, I don't know exactly what that is, so maybe you got something there. Can I tell you exactly what it is? Not always, But, you know, if it is something outside of that, then I tell them, yeah, you've caught something really interesting there. So I can't tell you exactly what it is all the time, but it's something.
At least you can say it's an unknown.
Yeah, you can definitely say, I can tell them it's an unknown for sure.
Mm.
So.
And that's a great diagnosis. I was just talking to Karen Hill with MUFON last week, and you know, unknown for them pretty much means the same thing. And I had to clarify that. So what does unknown mean? Unknown means basically that it's nothing prosaic, nothing explainable, and that only leaves the unknown, which we know is the paranormal, cryptid, ET,
unidentified.
So category. There we go. There we
you
go.
go.
So, yeah, can't wait. It's gonna be awesome. You know, I know you got. I can't wait to see what you're cooking up on this show. Because, like I say, I watch your show, Lee, and I see the quality that you guys have there. So I can only imagine, and I'm just anticipating the direction that you guys are gonna go in. So I think the anticipation is building for that, and I already know it's gonna be awesome. So I'm not really concerned there.
I was going to say our show that's coming up will be every Friday starting on June 28th. And it'll be
that's our show.
That's our show together.
Our new show.
Right. And that'll be called Element 115.
Oh, nice.
Basically borrowing that from Bob Lazar, right?
Yeah.
Element 115. So
But that'll be awesome, man. I can't wait to see. So yeah, so next week you guys will be doing that. Coming back here, and we'll be getting the live full hour of some great stuff. What Jackson, you know, and Lee, you may know this, but I had shown Jack some of the weird stuff that I had going on here at this house.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's tied to Virginia City or not. How would you describe your experience with what we did with the fan party, and then also our ghost tour in Virginia City? How'd you walk away from that?
Well, I'll tell you what, I saw some things there that I couldn't explain. I've done one other, I don't know if you want to call it a ghost hunt or paranormal, you know, investigation up at Northern State Hospital here in Washington State. And we got a couple orbs on film, but I have never seen one with my naked eye. I've seen it on film, but not with the naked eye. When we were in Virginia City, I saw them with my naked eye. And I'll tell you what, that was incredible.
Well, share that experience about like how it happened.
Yeah. So, thanks for pulling up pictures, but I think it was farther down. I'm not really sure it was here in front of the Red Dog Saloon or where it was, but there was supposedly a little girl that would always come down to the door to say hi to the people as they were doing their walkthrough, their ghost.
Was this at the hotel?
It was actually before. I'm trying to remember exactly where we were, but it was on the main road, and we were walking past, and it might have been like maybe right before we got to the hotel.
Yeah.
And I actually walked up to the glass and put my hand on the glass, and I said, you know, if there's any spirit here, you know, feel free to come up and say hello or show yourself, or if you want to touch my hand. And I said to him, I said, Lee, I actually just saw like a shadow, like a kind of a small white grayish shadowy thing come close to the window. Well, as soon as I said that, I said, oh, I felt something hit my ankle.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh my God. And that's when he said he saw the orb shoot out and went right past my ankle, past my leg.
Yeah.
Exactly where I said I felt it. So yeah, it was interesting.
It was.
Yeah.
It was definitely interesting. I've never seen anything like that, you know, with my visible eye. It just looked like a marble, like a grayish little white marble that went across, hit her ankle, and then kept going. And then when she felt it, I'm like, holy cow, that is just, that's tangible. That's real. That's not, you know, something.
Yeah.
It affected you physically, right? And it didn't look like it was a solid physical object.
Yeah.
So
now, was it you that walked away from that and wasn't feeling too well afterwards? Or I know I'm trying to think of who said that.
Me
when
or
you got
Lee?
back home? Yeah, when you got, I think it was when you got back home.
Okay,
And there's
so
some-
I was actually gonna say I personally had a weird experience because I didn't really feel anything too much like when we were in Reno, but as soon as I got home, I started having all these weird things happening to me. Like I do remember saying that night, like I wasn't feeling very well and I was like nauseous and I had like a headache. And so we ended up going back to the hotel. And I remember saying like that, even that night, like, I'm not feeling great. You know, I think I just need to go like get some sleep or something. But I actually ended up, and I talked to you about this a little bit, Rob, telling you about some weird things that we had going on in my house. I never really put two and two together about maybe like, you know, something coming home with me from Virginia City. But the more and more and more I started thinking about it, I thought, well, maybe that did actually happen because I know Lala had said that her and Science Bob had something attach itself to them. And I'm starting to wonder if maybe that's what I went through because at home, I was having really strange things happen to me and happen to like even around my children. And it was showing itself. And remember when I was telling you my son and I saw some really weird thing in the hallway?
Yeah.
Well, the more and more I started talking about it, it just started making more sense of like, what is it that's going on here? It was nonstop things we were hearing, we were seeing, we were feeling. I even called Lee and told him like all night long, I kept feeling like something was like standing over my bed or outside my door and it was watching me sleep. And I was having the worst time with sleeping. And when I woke up in the morning, I told my daughter, I said, you know, my head feels weird. Like my forehead right here feels really weird. And she looks at me and goes, well, there's like a big circle on your forehead of like skin that someone took your skin off. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? So I go and I look in the mirror and I literally had like a circle that looked like someone had poked me with something and ripped off like a tiny, like a little, maybe the end of your pinky size circle.
Wow.
Literally off my forehead. And I was like, what in the world is going on? Was that when I had the bite?
That was, no, the bite was first. And then.
Well, was that after I got back from Reno?
Yes.
Okay. So when I got back from Reno, it started with I slept on the couch one night. My mom was actually staying at my house, and so she was up in my room, so I decided to sleep on the couch. I wake up in the morning and the upper part of my arm right here, see if I can get it in the camera here, like right in here, okay, was hurting really bad. And so I walked up to my mom and I said, will you look at my arm? There's something not right here. And when I lifted my arm, it was like a bite mark, like top and bottom of like a mouth, like a massive bite mark. And she ended up taking a picture of it. So I'll have to see if I can get that off of her camera. But it was really weird.
Yeah, you showed me. I saw.
Oh, it was strange. Yeah. And I was like, this is the weirdest thing. I don't understand what's going on. So whatever it was has basically kind of attacked me in multiple ways. It has made me uncomfortable in my own home, which I've never felt before. Then my son and I saw that strange shadow thing, which I still to this day don't really understand what that was about. But another thing I started having was really strange dreams about creatures. Like for instance, one was like, what did you call it? A mantid?
Mantid,
mantid. I didn't even know those existed. I never really heard of those before. Have you ever heard of those, Rob?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So I started having dreams about that. And I called him the next day and I was like, I had this really weird dream. And every night I was having these strange dreams. And I told him about it. And he was like, oh, that's a mantid. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. Like, I've been to paranormal all these years and I've never heard of a mantid, you know? So that was like a whole new thing for me. And here I am dreaming about it. And now my son and I think that's what we saw in the hallway.
Oh no.
So at first we were trying to figure out, remember how I was holding up my arm in this weird way or something? And the way my son explained it to me, I was thinking, wait a minute, that's what I saw in my dream. And that's when Lee said, no, that's what a mantid looks like. And so the whole thing was all news for me. So I was like, wait a minute, what is happening? So here I am getting like physically bit, something's, doing something to literally taking like a chunk of my skin off my forehead. Like it looked like something had poked me and I was bleeding. Like it was like a spot where something like a pin or something would stick you in your skin. And what else? I can't even remember what else we had.
Was that separate? Because you said the skin is missing like the tip of your pinky, right? That size.
Yeah, but it was like a hole.
And there were inside that spot, there was another spot that looked like you got pinpricked.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what it looked like. And so I didn't understand what it was. So I took a few pictures of that as well. So I was like, I don't get it. I don't understand what's going on. But it was.
Did you say Lee had an experience like simultaneously with yours? Like he had the equipment malfunction or?
Oh, that night when we were out doing the investigation.
Yeah.
When she came on your show, she didn't feel good just prior to getting on your show. But then once the show starts, she was fine. But yeah, I was messed up pretty good.
Yeah, that was the night they were in. Where were you guys?
Rimrock Lake.
Okay. And it was a strange situation because I felt perfectly fine. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I felt horribly sick, horrible headache. Like just a vice was grabbing onto my head. Mm-hmm. And like I was just gonna lose it. And I just thought, and I even told him, I said, oh my God, I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to go on the show. That's how sick I was. I was like, that's it. I'm gonna have to just tell him I can't go on. And then I thought, okay, I gotta suck it up, right? I gotta suck it up and go. And then the second the show started, it like went away. Mm-hmm. Like it was just gone. Like I felt perfectly fine. It was so strange.
See, that's weird, man. Because not Melinda Leslie, but Bob and Lala, when they walked away from that, this was like a day after we left Reno, and they were the only ones that had mentioned experiencing something. So it was like, oh, okay, maybe that's a one-off thing, or maybe it could be something else. But then when the reports started piling in, and then yours, and then all of a sudden I get this orb. And that's the thing with the orb, is it happened after Reno. It didn't happen prior to Reno. So I kind of feel like, and then we were all in that room in Virginia City where they were telling the stories. And I remember you saying that you were filming video and you had captured the orb on video, and it was near where we were standing. And then it just had me thinking like, man, did I carry something back home? Is this related to Virginia City? And, I'm still there now because the initial day it happened, the recordings I showed, then it happened again, maybe a week later, but it's been a week since then and nothing has happened since. So I'm hoping that thing is over with, but, only time will tell. But I don't know if, I can't pinpoint what it's from. And likely if everybody else is having these experiences prior, post Virginia City, then maybe that's where that little came from. So
it could possibly be because I've had weird things, he's had weird things, you've had weird things, Lala and Science Bob have had, it's just very weird that we would all
be affected.
Every single one of us has had strange things happening. The things that go on in my home, my normal paranormal things, I'm very used to. Okay. Right. And they're nothing like I'm experiencing since Virginia City. That's absolutely different. Yeah.
Yeah. It something totally different about this. Yeah. Now, and Melinda I remember we were all outside before we went in there, and then she had said this speech or whatever it was, to not allow this thing to connect to us. And I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna be cool now. Melinda is going ahead and we're gonna be free and clear. And still in all, four out of 6 people end up taking something home. So I thought that was kind of, it was freaky. It opened myself up because I didn't think, when I'm in there and I'm listening to the story, I'm like, oh, okay, And then you say you caught the orb, and I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, she got an orb. Okay, cool. And then, we go and we get to this hotel, and then they're like, well, we're going to go in there. The one that's showing on the screen. I'm like, nah, I'm not going in there. So I stayed downstairs, and I don't know if you guys finished this tour and went through there, but we were off hanging off somewhere else, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, I've been to ghost towns before, never had any activity, and it was just so weird to end up having an experience that I feel may be related to this, that it boggles my mind, because I never would have thought, when I'm thinking about this, it just keeps blowing my mind. I don't know, but we did have fun afterwards when we went to the Skywatch, right? That was pretty fun. That was my first time doing something like that as well, trying to use CE5 to call something in, but we didn't get anything. But we did get to see Lee's cool equipment, so I thought that was pretty awesome. That was
just a little bit of it.
You saw this much, my friend. This much.
Oh my god!
Just a massive amount of equipment that I have. So
and I wanted to see what the because I know the footage, post is amazing, like crystal clear. I want to see that. Like, I don't know how we can get together to do that, but I would love to see that.
Yeah.
Well, we can work on that. You and I can contact you and then bring you on, and I can show it to you live.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that when Lee comes out in August, maybe like we can do some kind of special get together and have maybe a few different people get together and actually do maybe like a Skywatch somewhere in California. Rob and I talked about this before. And that would be really cool.
Yeah, down in LA area. We also have a lot of viewers down there. I know Browndorf is down there. He has his own channel, and he does CE5 as well, skywatching. So yeah, I think we could put something special together. And then also Jax talked about going to where the Patterson Gimlin film was done up in Northern California, and maybe doing something up there. So that would be pretty cool too if we could arrange that. Because I'm open. I want to see Bigfoot. Favorite. I want to know if Bigfoot is real.
You have to come with us. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's been one of my favorite places.
I would be open to it. I would love to see I would love to be able to come back and start off the show and say, ladies and gentlemen, Bigfoot is real.
Well, let me tell you something. If you only saw some of the stuff that I have seen in that location and didn't even see a Bigfoot, I guarantee you would still come back a believer, because it's mind-blowing to see the evidence of what Bigfoot has left behind or created. I mean, no human's going to go up in the mountain and just create these things for hoping that some random person's going to show up one day and say, oh, look what I found. I mean, it's just everywhere. It's not just like one little area where someone's built a teepee. You know what I mean? It's like, it's pure evidence everywhere.
And I hear you have to go in. You have to go in as not necessarily a believer, but you have to be open, right? I guess in order to have the experience. This is just what I hear from a lot of Bigfoot researchers. So, how true is that? And what would you say is probably the success rate of us going out there and seeing something?
Well, for me, if you're talking about seeing an actual Bigfoot, like your odds are actually better.
Any evidence, just any evidence of a Bigfoot.
First of all, any evidence at all in that location, I can guarantee you 100% you're going to see some evidence of the Bigfoot, of what they do, what they create, what they leave behind. I can guarantee that. I can show you that without fail. I've been there multiple times, and that alone I can 100% guarantee you. Now, will we actually see Bigfoot? I don't know. I mean, your chances are as good as anybody walking through. Like, But if we're out there and we're looking, we're in the right locations, we're researching it, and we're going to the locations that I'm very aware of, our odds are actually better because, I actually do look at the algorithm of like when Bigfoot goes, how many people actually report sightings and locations that you'll find them in. And that's exactly why I picked the location I went to last time. And I had probably the best time and the most amazing evidence I've ever found in my life. So I could literally almost guarantee you we're going to get something. And hopefully, I'm always crossing my fingers for a sighting. So, I've had the sounds, I've had the language, I've had the chatter, I've had the evidence of, the nests, the structures, like you name it. I can guarantee you we're going to have that for sure up in like Northern California where they filmed that evidence. And without a doubt in my mind, I know that evidence is real from being there as many times as I have.
What about what do you think, or do you use the term, and I'm getting actually new to this, but like what they call Bigfoot mind speak? Like, do you get into that? What do you think about that? And
I'm gonna let Lee talk about that. We talk about that a lot.
Yeah, I've had that happen to me with Craig Yanni, another Bigfoot researcher, actually. Going out to his location, which he has dubbed Sasquatch Valley here in Washington State. I can't tell you exactly where that's at, but we went out there and he was in the vehicle ahead of me. And then our plan was for him to get out of his vehicle and get into my 4Runner so we can get farther down the road where his vehicle couldn't go. And I was following him, and we got to like this clear cut. And all of a sudden we got into this clear cut. It was like, we don't want you here. And I'm like, what? Where the heck did that come from? Just all of a sudden out of the blue. It wasn't a thought that originated in my head. It was just from outside, from somewhere else. All of a sudden it just came in clear as a bell. We don't want you here. Plain as day. And I can't explain that, because when you have a thought, it originates from your mind. You process the thought, and then it's real. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can hear it in your own mind. But this was just like from out of nowhere. We don't want you here. Plain as day.
Man, I hear a lot of people.
I've actually had a different experience than Lee. I actually had an experience with my father several years ago where we had decided to walk about 50 feet away from each other, maybe a little bit further. And literally, my dad was about, like, I'd say off to the left as far as maybe like that amount of space. And in my right ear, as clear as day, I heard my dad's voice say my name. And so I immediately turned around, and of course, I see nothing. And so I yell out, was that you? And I hear him say, are you talking to me? And I said, yeah, did you just call my name? And he said, no, I'm like, I'm way over here and I didn't call you. And I said, well, I just heard your name. I mean, I heard my name, you calling me, and he's just like, no, that wasn't me at all. So I'm like, and so we actually met back up, and he was like, that's mind speak. That's mind speak. They're actually talking to you. They're trying to get your attention by using his voice to talk to me, to get my attention. And it did. It absolutely got my attention. So yeah, I've had a little bit different experience than that. But yeah. And it's crazy when you hear something, because you're just like, where is that coming from?
Yeah. I don't know. Well, I'm open to it, so I'm open to going out there and experiencing it myself for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you? So, I have heard, like, my friend Long Island Bigfoot has his own channel as well, and when I talked to him, he said something really compelling, where he thinks those tree knocks that you hear it's definitely communication between them. But he says what he's noticed and what he thinks is going on is they are alerting each other of humans coming into the area. And he says that I guess he was with another person, and so what he
Mhm.
would hear was a double knock, and he thinks is indicating that there are two people there that say, "Hey,
Oh,
there's two people coming," so two knocks, and then depending on the
Mhm.
number of people that may be present is what they're doing. I was like, you know what, that could make sense, and why they would do
Mhm.
that. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
well, I think that's a good assumption. My thought is though, is if they're able to use this mind speak and they can speak to people somehow and let them know that they're not wanted in an area, can they communicate with each other the same way or as easily or maybe even easier with each other, just
Yes.
like they communicated with me, or at least, as far as
Mhm.
I got that information.
Mhm.
Um, but maybe their littler ones haven't gotten that ability yet, or something like that, and they use those tree knocks to,
Mhm.
you know, alert everybody in the clan. I'm not sure.
What is
Well, growing up, yeah, I was always told that they actually use the tree knocks to not only communicate with each other, but to warn each other of, people being there or danger coming.
Mhm.
So, that's something that I was raised and that we actually have the communication between each other where if we tree knock, we can act, we'll get the tree knock back sometimes. And it'll almost be like an identical tree knock sound. Like if we do one knock, we'll get one knock, two knocks, we'll get two knocks. So I don't think it's just a warning or just an alert. I think it's actually a sign of like communicating between each other, because for years and years we would move to different areas and go to different locations. Now I've been to all the states in the United States and everywhere we could possibly go to do, you know, Bigfoot research we have. And every single location we go to, we do the exact same thing. Tree knocks, different times, 1, 2, 3, whatever. And we will almost get the exact same replica of what we put out. So we think it's just a little bit more of like a communicating thing. Like, yeah, we hear you. Yeah, we're here. We're going to let you know we're here. And then because they do have a tendency to imitate us. And I think that's why they use sometimes our voice.
Mhm.
And so that's something that I was, taught at a very, very young age, that if you hear something, it could be something that because they heard us do it, like a whistle. Sometimes, like I said, using our own voices, they'll use they're very highly intelligent,
Mhm.
beings. So yeah, I think people don't give them enough credit, honestly, about how intelligent they truly are.
I would agree with that. That's for sure.
Yeah, and
Very
I
cool.
doing this show, and when I walk away from the show and get back into my regular everyday life, then I talk to other people about the things that I've come across and kind of where I'm at in this whole conversation. And I talk to them about the onion and the layers and how that works, and peel back another layer and kind of where I'm at with that. And so they'll ask me, what do you think about Bigfoot? Do you think that's real? And then I kind of have to be like, well, I am at a point right now. And I explain to them how the process is gone, and that, every time you peel off another layer, it
Mhm.
exposes you to something else. And then now you're like, whoa, okay, is that real? And so I told them I'm at a point right now where I'm totally open to it. And I can see that this might actually be something that's going on out there. Then I kind of want to just be able to, because Dave Scott he goes out there and he researches, and I talk to other people that do as well. And I'm kind of just like at that point in my journey where I'm ready to kind of have that validated. And so this is like on my list for this year. So somehow, some way, we got to definitely make that happen so I can close that chapter and peel off another layer and get on to Dogman or whatever the next.
Absolutely. Too, you don't really have to go as far as you think. Like, believe it or not, people are having sightings all over California.
Mm-hmm.
They live in the mountains all across California. A lot of people think like, oh, you have to go to this one specific site or you're not going to, see one or find evidence. That's not true. There's people are getting sightings up in like Sequoia National Park and Yosemite and
Mhm.
Big Bear and like all these different locations. I mean, even San Bernardino Mountains, you know what I mean? And I don't live very far from there.
Yeah,
So you
I
really
thought
don't have to
about
go as
going
far
to
as you think.
Yosemite. I drove through Yosemite. Well, I came
Mhm.
in from the backside of Yosemite, coming from Nevada, and through the gates there. And as I'm driving through Yosemite, I'm trying to cut down to 99. And so, as I'm going through there and I see all these meadows and all the forest that's out there, I'm like, yeah, there could be something out here. Like if it was out here, it would go unseen for sure for a long period of time unless you were out there looking for it. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? And that's
Mhm.
kind of the realization. And I think people who live in cities who don't really go to those sort of areas can't really wrap their mind around how much forest and cover
Right.
and of that nature that there actually is out
Yeah.
there. It's a lot. You could walk
Oh,
for
there's
days and never hit another person.
land beyond more land than we can even imagine, especially in California. Like, I mean, if you are from California or ever been to California, you live there, when you're traveling up the state, I mean, that place is massive.
Yeah.
And there's areas they could be hiding. Now, you got to remember too, uh, Bigfoot are known for living in caves. Um, they're known for using they're very smart. Like I said, they use trails. They use old logging roads. They use
Power lines.
power lines to travel. You got to remember too, like when you're looking, if you're someone new out there, and like for instance, like if you want to go out and start looking, like one of the basics of like picking a location is you have to remember that you need water. They need water. Okay. So don't go like off to a place where there's going to be like no water for 100 miles. Cause I mean, what are they going to do? Some place
Right.
there's
That
going
makes
to need to
sense.
be like a lake, a river, a stream, something, you know what I mean? So they tend to find homes and make homes as close to water because that's a food source. That's a water source. That's a food source. And the closer they are to water, the easier their life is, as much as it's like, we would be the same way if we lived there.
Yeah.
So you
Right.
just have to, think about like when you're picking a location, like, okay, where would it be easy for them to get water? Where would it be easy for them to get food, even if it was like cold and they needed, protein, or because they don't just eat like animals, they eat berries, they eat,
Tubers.
tubers, grass, things that grow. I mean, fish, you name it. It's
Pretty
all
much.
over the board, like
Yeah,
anything
much.
they want.
Yeah.
So it's just a thought process of thinking like, okay, where would be the best location to start? Like, if you can find a place that has an open meadow near water, that's a great place to start. It doesn't always have to be like the woods. A lot of people think like, oh, you have to be like deep in the woods. Well, that's usually where people have sightings because it's like, oh, I was hunting or I was fishing. But to be honest, more people have sightings in the open, like open meadows, roads, fishing, things where they actually come down to the water, or they're walking across a meadow, or you know what I mean? So you don't find a lot of people who say like, oh, I was deep in the woods, you know what I mean? But I mean, they live everywhere. I can't really see it.
Oh, okay. Somebody's just
Yeah.
commenting about our Bigfoot in the cave.
Oh yeah. So if you have like, say you have like old mining caves, well, you have a lot of those in California that people no longer use. Okay. These are even like we have found evidence over the years where people will have like an old log cabin, and believe it or not, we will literally find evidence of Bigfoot using that old cabin for whatever, protecting themselves, for maybe hiding food or making shelter or whatever. They use things that are out there. They're very smart. So they're very fast and they're very good about like creating a safe place for not only themselves, but their families. And there's just a lot more out there. People usually think it's like one single Bigfoot that lives out there, but it's actually multiple, and they have, women and children, and they're everywhere.
And here's another thing: when people, in a lot of cases, I'll say, when people who haven't done research think about caves or talk about caves, they think of something that you go in 10 feet, 20 feet, and that's it. When these caves or systems are so extensive that it's insane. Like you could go in and for miles, literally, into a cave system. So if you haven't reached the end of a cave system, who knows what is at the end of that thing? So
exactly. And these cave systems, usually they go off in different directions. And, the miners actually created some that are literally like 20, 30 miles long. I mean, they could be living in there. They could have families, colonies of them living in there, and no one's going to find them. Who's going to go down there?
Yeah.
So
and a testament to that would be the fact that if a catastrophic event hits that changes what's going on up here on the surface, watch how many people go straight to those caves. And if we would go there, why would they go there? Why? Cavemen lived in caves in the beginning, so it just only makes sense that would be somewhere where you might find something living taking refuge, right? So
absolutely,
Well, I like to make sense with.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is, people, please, if you're going to go out and you're going to research these caves, be careful about going inside these caves. You never know what you're going to find. You don't know how far they go. You could possibly get lost in these caves. And some of them are extremely dangerous. So, you might go into something that's like an old mining cave that could have
loose timbers. I mean,
not only that,
doors,
but dangerous,
rattlesnakes.
Oh my gosh. I'm trying losing the word I'm trying to say, but how you can get cancer, and you know what I mean? There's stuff in these caves where you don't always know what you're getting into. I mean, you can literally go inside 10 feet and it's like, you don't want to be in there.
Right.
As well as Charles Ledoux saying, gas pockets are just unhealthy air, period. Right?
Exactly.
Then that's why they take those meters in there to test the air.
Absolutely.
But stay away from caves.
Stay away from caves.
Don't go to caves. Okay.
I'm being dead honest with you. I agree. Stay away from the caves. As fun as that sounds, and as inviting as that sounds to people, curious people out there, you're safer to stay out. And if you're interested in looking, I would highly suggest looking outside where you have fresh air, because you could go in 10, 20 feet and that's it. I mean, it could kill you. So be careful.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Jax and Lee, it's been awesome. I do appreciate you guys coming in tonight. It's going to be even more epic and awesome next Sunday. What do you want to leave the audience with tonight?
Well, we can talk about our new show coming up, June 28th is when we start. It'll be on YouTube under spacedoutradio. So, and it'll be at 8 o'clock from 8 o'clock. No, I'm sorry, from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock.
Wait,
no.
8
to 9. Sorry.
And this is Pacific Central Time. Okay,
That's
Pacific
correct.
Standard Time. We go from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So I know that's really late for some people, but this is after hours. So that's what we do. We come to you late. But
to make it more simple, it's right before Dave Scott on Friday.
Exactly.
Every Friday, right before Dave Scott.
Every Friday night. Yep.
It would
We're
be there.
Yep.
Be there or be
video
somewhere.
together, so we'll have that out.
All right. Well, it's been awesome, guys. I do appreciate you guys coming on in and chatting with us tonight. I'm going to go ahead and get ready to wrap up the show. We will be seeing you guys next week for an epic show. So everybody hit your notification bell, put it on your calendars. It's going down. A lot of big things are definitely going to be happening here at Space Out Radio. Even some things you don't know yet, which you may know this week if Dave Scott chooses to inform you or not. I'll maybe ask him if he can. So just tune in. A lot of big things going on here. Jackson Lee, have a great rest of your night. You guys take care and have a great week, and see you next week.
Have a great night, guys.
All right. Take care. Yes, guys, that was it. Awesome show, right? Awesome show. What more could you ask for? Preston, Dennett, hour 1 and 2, Lee and Jax, hour 3, and has been a pleasure, man. It's just really been a pleasure to spend this Father's Day with everybody in this fashion, right? Before the show, I had a great Father's Day dinner, so I got off to a great start. Had a nice, great, beverage to go along with that, I'll say. And and this is a great way to end the weekend period, right? Get you ready for your work week, positive energy, kind of going out there to manifest yourself a great week coming up. And already know Dave Scott is here Monday through Friday. And I want to say, and I'm going to double check because I think because of the hiccup that we had, or that Dave actually had on Wednesday, I want to say, he was expecting Jason Gilmet to come in. Let me see who Dave actually has coming on tomorrow. And because I want to make sure everyone's here to go ahead and take a look at that. And let me see, live shows. Boop, boop, boop. Okay. According to this, it looks like, okay, the shows aren't posted yet. So I can't tell you. All I can tell you is be here tomorrow and watch David Scott live Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. Pacific until midnight, and then come right back here to the after hours next Saturday and Sunday, 8 p.m. Pacific until 11 p.m. Let me go ahead and thank the super chatters for tonight. We had Reverend Cosmic Joe Chronicles. We had Deb from Sacramento. We had the Reverend again. We had Maggie M10, and then we had Deb once again. Definitely want to thank you for doing this here. To all the space travelers, since you're already space traveling, please consider taking the next step and join the club. That's right. You can join the SOR Space Travelers Club for as little as $5 a month by joining our Patreon. To all the listeners and viewers around the globe, definitely want to thank you for tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, where we do what we always do best and will continue to do. And what's that, you ask? We own the night, guys. Have a great rest of your night. Have a great weekend. Take care as we get up out of here.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio.
You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have Spaced Out Radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com, shop there today, and make yourself look good.